Chapter 748. What if I became plump and chubby? Would you still use me as the female lead? Tongning asked with a smile as she gestured for the woman to sit down. Of course not. You've always been self-disciplined, and I trust you. I simply never expected that after giving birth, you would still be able to manage your body so well. Tang Xiao was dressed in a long black dress and wore a pair of gold-rimmed glasses. She looked shy, a perfect fit for an author that stayed at home and didn't leave the house or interact with others. Do you want to see them? Tongning asked as she brewed a cup of coffee. Can I? Tang Xiao was pleasantly surprised. She looked cute and innocent. Tongning nodded her head and led her to the nursery. As soon as Tang Xiao saw the two babies, she was shocked. You gave birth to twins? They look exactly the same. Yes, I haven't announced it to the public, Tongning replied as she nodded her head. I simply hope these two rascals have a peaceful childhood. They're so cute. Tang Xiao was 23 years old this year, but she had already written a few million words. Her most popular novel was none other than The Forensic Concubine. Actually, Tang Xiao's family wasn't very wealthy, so her parents often fought in front of her. To change her fate, she embarked on the path of writing. When she first met Tongning, she was at the lowest point of her life. But as she watched Tongning progress step by step to where she was today, she pulled herself together and became a goddess that everyone looked up to in the online literature industry. It didn't take long before the two women started chatting. Tang Xiao knew that Tongning wasn't arrogant, so she quickly told her why she wrote The Forensic Concubine. The two women had the same values. It was as if they regretted not meeting each other earlier. The more they talked, the more they got along. I believe you can act as my Qinglan well, but you need to be prepared to suffer. If this novel is to be filmed well, you will definitely have to suffer a lot. Hearing Tang Xiao say this, Tongning smiled gently. Don't worry, since you've come to my rescue with such a good novel, I will definitely do my best. That's because you've once saved me. Tang Xiao thanked Tongning sincerely. You may not know how much you mean to me. During my toughest time, you were the one who made me realize that perseverance can be rewarded. If everyone in this world can do things with kindness in their hearts, I'm sure more people will be influenced. Plus, you didn't need my novel to save you. You are just you, not what the public thinks you are. Tongning and Tang Xiao chatted for a good few hours. Basically, they had a clear idea of the entire story. In the end, Tang Xiao realized it was getting late, so he rushed home. Otherwise, he didn't know how much longer they would have to chat. By the way, what do you think about the male lead's choice? Originally, I also liked Bei Qindong, but you've already worked together so many times. Plus, his looks are not suitable for a period drama. So, I think it's better if you guys decide. Tang Xiao. Tang, I do have someone in mind, but I don't think it's possible. Tang Xiao held back for a moment. But in the end, she asked Tongning to lean over and whisper a name in her ear. Indeed, Tongning winked at her. He is born with the domineering aura of a king. Even without acting, he would be able to win over the audience and fans. However, this choice wasn't easy to come by. That's impossible, right? I don't think it's possible either. I don't think he knows how to act. I'll leave it up to you to decide. As long as you think someone is suitable for you, then that's the best decision. Tang Xiao trusted them a little too much. When other authors were filming their novels, they would be worried and recommend all sorts of actors. Yet, Tang Xiao simply left behind an impossible name, waved her hand, and left. It wasn't that Tang Xiao didn't suggest that this person couldn't act. It was just, while the filming of Concubine Ning was in full swing, an explosive piece of news immediately exploded in Beijing. Tongning's new drama had been confirmed. It was an adaptation of the popular author Tang Xiao's work, The Forensic Concubine. As soon as the news was released, the media immediately swarmed over to Hai Rui to verify the authenticity of the news. In the end, the PR director told the reporters that everything would be based on Hai Rui's official announcement, and that there was no comment to be made at this time. As soon as the news was released, the crew of Concubine Ning immediately felt a sense of crisis. After all, many of them had read the book and were currently following Tang Xiao's updates. So, it was easy to tell how popular the book was from the reactions of the crew. As Baiyu was overseas most of the time, She had never read the book before. So, she asked her assistant, "Is the forensic concubine better than concubine Ning?" Her assistant was a little surprised. She didn't expect Bai Yu to ask this, so she nodded her head timidly. "Tell me the truth. It is indeed good. This is a classic that no one can surpass," her assistant replied honestly. "Plus, I heard that Tang Xiao personally adapted the script. It's obvious how amazing it is. Are you looking forward to it?" Her assistant observed Bai Yu's expression. In the end, she had no choice but to lie. How could that be possible? If Tang Xiao wants to adapt the script, it depends on whether the fans are willing to accept it. Every fan has different requirements for the female lead. Does Tawning want to act in this drama? It's best if she gets past the fans first. Plus, she has to suffer. After hearing this, Bai Yu knew that her assistant was being perfunctory. But she did have a point. After all, book fans were the hardest to satisfy. Indeed, as soon as the news was released, the fans of The Forensic Concubine were in an uproar. "Oh God, the book that I like and the actress that I like are finally together. Fuck, they still can't escape the ending of filming a TV show." Luckily, Tongning is the female lead. That's a little comforting. I'm so excited that Tongning is going to play our Qinglan. Aw, she's perfect for the character. That's something to be happy about. I've always known that Tang Xiao is a fan of Tongning's. Of course, there were still some fans that were doubtful. Tongning has just given birth. How is she going to portray our domineering Qinglan? With Tongning's figure, I don't think she can fit into an ancient costume. I acknowledge Tongning's acting, but I'm sorry, I still can't digest a radish figure that has just given birth. The Qinglan in my heart can't be portrayed by anyone. Please, Tongning, let us off the hook. So many good works have already been ruined. This is my favorite book. Please don't do it. Her acting was acknowledged. However, her body and condition were being questioned. Chapter 749. Tawning was not in a rush to clarify, because it wasn't the right time yet. But the crew still had to select the male lead. In the end, Ting gave Tawning two choices. Lu Yiling and Longxing. Lu Yiling had a very impressive appearance. In fact, he looked quite similar to Jun Yilan from the novel. Although his acting was average, it still added to his image. Longxing, on the other hand, was the complete opposite. His ancient costume wasn't eye-catching, but he was comfortable to look at. Most importantly, his acting was outstanding. Both of them had their own advantages and disadvantages. Tawning looked at the two male leads that Ting had chosen and remained silent for quite some time. But Ting immediately saw through her thoughts. "You're not satisfied with either one?" Tongning looked at Ting quietly, like she wanted to peer into his soul. "I've already notified the artists from both agencies to come for an audition. When the time comes, you should come and have a look." Tongning nodded her head. In reality, deep down, she also felt that the male lead that she had hoped for was impossible. After Bai Yu returned to China, Bai Linlin immediately found someone to rely on. All the negative emotions from being punished by Tongning were swept away, and she could strut around everywhere she went. Of course, she still remembered Chen Xingyan. Even if she couldn't bully the secluded Tongning, teaching Chen Xingyan a lesson was not bad. Plus, the two were currently competing for a role in The Best Ex-Girlfriend, so the chances of them seeing each other increased. After Zhehao resigned from the production of Concubine Ning, he placed all his focus on Chen Xingyan. Seeing that she had matured and become sensible, he felt a lot better. This time, it was a meeting for the actors to read the script. And Zhehao accompanied Chen Xingyan to the bathroom and walked her all the way to the door. As soon as Bai Linlin stepped out of the bathroom, she saw Zhehao and sneered as she approached. Mr. and Zhehao leaned against the wall and glanced at Bai Linlin calmly. "I heard you used to be a top manager, but from what I see, your abilities are quite average. If you can't even manage Chen Xingyan, do you think you'll be able to produce any results?" And Zhehao completely ignored Bai Linlin. He acted like she didn't even exist. Seeing this, Bai Linlin scoffed. "Even if you take care of Chen Xingyan for the rest of her life, she will never become a superstar. Give up." After hearing this, and Zhehao pointed at his ears. "I don't think I can understand what animals are saying. Maybe I have bad hearing." Bai Linlin scoffed as she stomped her feet and left. Not long after, Chun Xingyin also walked out of the bathroom and looked at Nzaheo. I just heard by Lin Lin's voice. Did she cause trouble for you? Let's go. It's about to start. Nzaheo had no intention of explaining at all. Humiliated you. Nzaheo remained silent. Chun Xingyin did not ask any further. But she secretly swore to herself that she would become the best artist in Nzaheo's hands. She would shine brightly and allow him to hold his head high. The meeting soon started. Chun Xingyin did not disappoint and played the role of the tomboy that she wanted. Bai Lin was dismissive. Trash can only choose a trash character. After the meeting, just as Bai Lin was about to leave, a staff member arrived with a bunch of gifts. These were gifts that Bai Yu had specially prepared for Bai Lin. As mentioned before, Bai Yu is a good person. So, in order to make things easier for Bai Lin on set, she naturally put in a lot of effort. I never thought that an international superstar would come to our set. I just saw Bai Yu. Bai Yu, let's take a photo together. I like you so much. Bai Yu Jia, thank you for your gifts. We will definitely get along well with Lin. Bai Yu stood behind the door with a gentle smile. Her EQ was perfect, but Nzaheo felt extremely awkward inside the meeting room. The management agencies of the actors in the room all expressed their opinions. To ensure that their artists were taken care of, it was indeed necessary to put in a lot of effort. But Nzaheo did not make a move. Let's go, Nzaheo said to Chun Xingyin. Wait, you guys have a share too, Bai Yu said as she watched the couple leave. So, she pulled out 2 gifts and handed them to Chun Xingyin. Chun Xingyin glanced at Nzaheo. In the end, Little Seven stretched out his hand and accepted the gifts. Thank you, Bai Yu Jia. In the workplace, there was always a type of person that used their high EQ to make others look bad. Of course, Bai Yu simply wanted to embarrass Chun Xingyin and Little Seven. Bai Lin revealed a proud expression. It was like she was saying with her eyes, look, this is my considerate sister. Let's go, Nzaheo said to Chun Xingyin. He then wrapped his arm around Chun Xingyin's shoulder and led her out of the meeting room. She's Mo Ting's sister. How can she not know how to act? What an embarrassment. I heard that Nzaheo used to be a top manager. Why would he take on a role like Chun Xingyin? Because he's used up his talent. Before the couple could get far, unpleasant discussions could be heard behind them. Chun Xingyin wanted to turn around, but Nzaheo held her back and said, ignore them. But they said you. Nzaheo did not give Chun Xingyin a chance to respond, as he quickly led her out of the set. Bai Yu was indeed good at acting. But so what? Sis, you've come at the right time. You've made me proud. As Bai Lin watched Nzaheo and Nzaheo leave, she was finally able to vent her anger. From now on, I will teach her a lesson on set. Unfortunately, Nzaheo's reputation as a top manager wasn't undeserved. Bai Yu was indeed good at acting, but she didn't do it to the point. How much was a gift worth? The next morning, Nzaheo invited a few important people on set to a 5-star hotel for dinner. During dinner, he said to the director, Director Wang, I happen to have a friend who is the head of the School of Foreign Languages. I think he can give your daughter some advice. As soon as the man called Director Wang heard this, he immediately slapped the table and cheered. I was just worrying about this. Nzaheo, you really understand me. The School of Foreign Languages was one of the most difficult schools to get into. Director Wang had already pulled a lot of strings, but he still couldn't get his daughter in. Who would have thought? Nzaheo actually had the ability. Don't worry, I know what you're trying to do. I will take good care of Xingyin. Don't worry. When it came to bribing people, there was no need to waste money on irrelevant people. All they needed to do was use it where it mattered most. It didn't matter how other people treated Chun Xingyin. After all, the important things were decided by the director. Chapter 750. The atmosphere during lunch was very harmonious. Of course, there was going to be a good show to watch after filming started. Did Nzaheo not know how to behave? What a joke. But did he need to suck up to the average person? That would be lowering his status. Most importantly, the director knew how to weigh the pros and cons. No matter how capable Bai Yu was, her power was limited to the U.S. If she wanted to survive in Beijing, she couldn't afford to offend the big boss, Missouri Ting. especially since she was his sister. But what was the public saying? Not only was Bayu's acting top-notch, her EQ was also admirable. An actress like her was truly 1 in 100. Even Tongning couldn't compare to her in terms of slickness. After all, Tongning would show her own personality from time to time. But Bayu was flawless. She was like the perfect goddess in everyone's hearts. But what made her even more likable was the fact that, after the filming of Concubine Ning, she continued to stick to her job despite being injured multiple times. She never delayed her schedule because she was a superstar. Amongst the highlights, Bayu's fans were heartbroken as they begged the director to protect their national goddess. The national goddess. In an instant, Bayu's limelight overshadowed the bloated Tongning, because she seemed more perfect than Tongning. Fuck, this Bayu is disgusting. Long Jie was furious after seeing the comments online. Even though she was pregnant, she still rushed over to Hyatt Regency. You're pregnant. Can't you stay calm? Tongning said in a strict tone. Do you want your future child to also have an impatient temper? Is this hereditary? Long Jie was stunned. It's been so many years. Are you still not used to the comments online? Tongning quickly helped her sit down. But it's not as disgusting as this. Look at what the internet is saying. Her acting is better than yours, her EQ is higher than yours, and her body is even better than yours. Are these people blind? It's normal for people to doubt me because they haven't seen me like this. Can't you calm down a little? Tongning's EQ had always been used when dealing with others. She had never tried to please anyone. So, it wasn't an exaggeration to say that Bayu knew how to behave better than her. As for her other traits, there would always be a chance to verify them in the future. So, what was the rush? But I'm still angry. But Tongning had always been this calm and collected. No one could tell how strong she was, but when she fought back, she was beautiful. Don't worry, you have a good show to watch. Stay calm, Tongning said to Long Jie. While Bayu was doing well in Beijing, Bai Lin, as her younger sister, naturally received more attention. But by this time, she had already joined the production crew. Although she couldn't show off to the public, she still held her head high on set. Not only did the director praise Chen Xingyan, he even said to everyone after Chen Xingyan finished filming, those that were scolded a moment ago, I think, were all scolded because they didn't have the right mindset. What's the point of bullying others? Also, some of the staff shouldn't disregard their own jobs and look down on others just for the sake of some benefits. You guys better be careful from now on. If I find out about this again, I will ask you to pack up and leave. After saying this, Director Wang called it a day. However, the faces of the staff on set were flushed red with embarrassment. Why is Director Wang being biased towards Chen Xingyan? Bai Lin asked curiously. Perhaps it's because she's been bullied by everyone, the staff shrugged. Bai Lin was extremely unhappy. Although she was welcomed by everyone on set, the most important thing was that the director hated her. She wondered what kind of luck Chen Xingyan had. Was this luck? Bai Lin would never understand. Just like her sister, she only knew how to act on the surface. But she had no idea that there were some things that arrogant people like her couldn't control. Chapter 751. Over the past few days, the public's favorite thing to do was compare Bayu and Tongning. Everyone laughed. It was difficult for Tongning to meet a female artist with a higher EQ than her. Not many people could see through her true nature. Bayu's high EQ was simply another way for her to show off. Bayu is so perfect. She alone is enough. Tongning should stay at home and take care of the kids. I know, right? For the sake of filming, Bayu is willing to give up on her kids. Someone like her is a complete drama addict. The two of them are so similar. One person is enough. Since Tongning has already announced that she's retreating, she shouldn't make a comeback. Let someone else film The Forensic Concubine. Faced with this wave of criticism, Bayu was in the limelight. But Tongning didn't like to explain herself. So, she became nothing more than a replica of Bayu. With the addition of footage from Bayu's filming of Concubine Ning, fans paid a lot of attention to Bayu and liked the way she handled things. In this world, both male and female fans liked a perfect face and a perfect body. This was how the industry worked. No matter if you gained weight or had plastic surgery, as long as you became ugly, your career had no choice but to go downhill. Perhaps in everyone's eyes, Tawning was an artist that could only go downhill. Yet, she was struggling on her deathbed. Tawning never tried to explain herself, but there were still people that were willing to protect and believe in her. So, whether to side with Tawning or Baiyu caused quite a few of her friends to fight. President, the luxury cosmetics advertisement that Madame Shot will be released globally tomorrow. The advertising company has already confirmed it with us. Inside the CEO's office at Hairue, Lu Che held a thick stack of documents in his hands as he waited to report to Ting. But Tangning's commercial was a big deal, so he had to place it at the forefront. When the time comes, Beijing's biggest shopping malls and office buildings will be broadcasting the latest season's commercial. You don't need to worry about exposure. Ting was standing beside the floor-to-ceiling window. After hearing Lu Che's report, he turned around elegantly. News of the male lead audition for The Forensic Concubine will be on the headlines in a few days. Baiyu had bullied Tawning for so long. It was time for Baiyu to experience the true meaning of overwhelming suppression. Competing with Tangning's EQ? Who gave her the guts? The next day, Baiyu happened to participate in a program called Visiting the Big Shot. As the hottest actress at the moment, she naturally didn't want to miss an opportunity to show off her EQ. Especially when a reporter asked her what she thought about the recent comparisons between her and Tawning. She replied humbly, "Actually, if we go by the time we debuted, Tawning is indeed my senior. I think Tawning has already done well. Honestly, not at all. Actually, you did better." "Is that so? Thank you." Baiyu smiled as she thanked the reporters. By debuting early, she was merely hinting to everyone that Tawning was old. Plus, you're living a better life than Tawning. Thank you, really thank you. But Tawning has the little north nose. Baiyu continued to speak up for Tawning, displaying her kindness and high EQ to the extreme. But the more she replied in this manner, the more obvious the disgust everyone felt towards her. Because everyone felt that Baiyu's presence was more comforting than Tangning's. However, at 10 o'clock in the morning, on the huge screen in Beijing's most bustling central square, a certain luxury cosmetics brand's latest commercial was being broadcasted. As soon as the commercial was played, it immediately ignited the internet. Because in the short 30-second commercial, the spokesperson for the brand's latest product was actually Tawning. That's right, it was the actress that everyone had recently despised, Tawning. She was wearing a white sports bra and skin-tight trousers with boxing gloves on her hands. Her shoulder-length hair was dyed blonde and slightly curly. She exuded elegance and energy, instantly captivating the onlookers. Because she was handsome, because she looked clean and at ease, and because she gave off a natural girly vibe. As mentioned before, she changed into 7 outfits throughout the commercial. In particular, the long dress that she wore at the end of the commercial with Rose was absolutely stunning. It accentuated her figure and made her look even more voluptuous than before. Her stomach had returned to normal, and there wasn't a single trace of excess fat on it. It was enough to make one go crazy with envy. Oh God, I'm about to explode from Tangning's body. I've already jumped onto Baiyu's side. Fuck, all I can do now is embarrass myself by jumping back. Those that said Tawning was fat and out of shape, their faces must be swollen by now. All I want to say is a certain someone in Hollywood has never received such a big name endorsement before. Mai Ning has really given herself a ticking time bomb. While Baiyu was still feeling proud of her high EQ, the entire Beijing was filled with the words Tawning and big name endorsements. Some fans even commented that a commercial like this, even if they watched it a few dozen times, they wouldn't get sick of it, because Tangning's figure and looks were still there. At the same time, Tangning's appearance on the runway brought back the attention of those in the fashion industry who had watched her show. In their hearts, there had never been a model like Tawning. Even though she had been away from the fashion industry for so long, she still managed to make people excited. Great, this was very Tawning. Whenever her news was released, it always gave people the feeling of being slapped in the face. So, Baiyu's news was quickly overshadowed. Meanwhile, Tangning's commercial only lasted for a few hours, and it already had over 10 million views. Afterwards, a certain big-name cosmetics company announced on their official Weibo that they would be inviting their spokesperson, Tangning, to attend their press release the following night. In other words, after being hidden for so long, Tangning was finally going to meet the public. WTF, I must say, Tangning's tolerance is the best in the world. So many people scolded her for being fat, yet she was able to endure it for so long. Now, she's finally stepping out to slap them in the face. If I was her, I would have been pissed off a few thousand times already. That's because she knows she's not like how the public portrays her to be. She has the confidence, so why can't she endure it? As Baiyu was busy filming, she had no idea of the drastic change that had occurred in the outside world. So, it wasn't until late at night that she finished filming that she looked at her phone and saw that there was an overwhelming amount of news about Tangning. What's going on? Baiyu asked her assistant. Her assistant looked at Baiyu helplessly and shook her head. I'm not sure what trick Tangning is playing. Baiyu did not say a word. In front of everyone, she had always maintained an amiable image. But inside, she was already furious. She had no idea that because she played the high EQ card, she had dug a lot of holes for herself. Chapter 752. In an instant, Tangning turned the tables around and once again crushed Baiyu. Because people were starting to realize that when people previously compared Tangning to Baiyu, they were wrong. Tangning had a personality. How could she possibly be similar to Baiyu? It was true that Tangning had a personality and was self-centered, unlike Baiyu who had to please everyone. Hadn't Tangning always been nice to whoever was nice to her? In comparison, Baiyu was the type of person that smiled at everyone she met. Although it was comfortable, it was also scary. After all, you never knew when she would stab you or plot against you. Above all, a person that took care of everyone around her well knew how to weigh the pros and cons and wouldn't treat anyone with sincerity. Because, in her heart, everyone was the same. Tangning, without a doubt, fought a beautiful comeback. As a result, Bai Linlin and Chen Xingyan, who were on set, were also affected. Previously, when Baiyu was being praised by everyone, her younger sister, Bai Linlin, also received a lot of envious looks. In fact, these people also looked down on Chen Xingyan. But with Tangning's sudden rise, the wind suddenly changed. The people that originally liked to make things difficult for Chen Xingyan now understood the importance of holding back, so they no longer dared to be rude to Chen Xingyan. In fact, they even bought her gifts to flatter her. But during this period of time, Chen Xingyan had been obedient and focused on being himself. So, these people were simply given the cold shoulder. Seeing this, Bai Linlin angrily approached Chen Xingyan and said in a jealous tone, "Hey, did you think that because of Tangning, your status has suddenly risen? Let me tell you, it's Tangning, not you." After hearing this, Chen Xingyan did not want to waste another second on Bai Linlin. Haven't you always been using your sister to show off? What? If you could do that, why can't others? You. Plus, since Ning Jie has already made a comeback, it means your sister no longer has a chance of beating her. If you have the time to be jealous in front of me, you might as well find a chance to improve your acting. Chen Xingyan, I think you were the one that shamelessly seduced the director, Bai Linlin said in a harsh tone. Bai Linlin said sarcastically, "Otherwise, why would the director scold the female lead and only care about you?" After hearing this, Chen Xingyan dragged Bai Linlin over to Director Wang and asked, "Are you brave enough to repeat what you just said in front of Director Wang?" "What happened?" Director Wang immediately asked. Bai Linlin never expected that Chen Xingyan would drag her over to confront Director Wang. "Do you dare? You're using Tangning to bully me." Bai Linlin suddenly felt wronged. "Fine, if you don't want to say it, I'll help you." Chen Xingyan wasn't going to hold back. She knew, no matter how she treated Bai Linlin, the Bai sisters wouldn't appreciate it. So, she might as well make things easier for herself. Bai Linlin just asked me if I seduced the director. That's why he's taking care of me. After hearing this, Director Wang's face turned red in anger. He stretched out his hand and threw a slap across Bai Linlin's face. "I dare you to fucking say that again." Are you brave enough to say it in front of me? After receiving a slap, Bai Lin Lin was shocked speechless by Director Wang. I. Why should I take care of Xingyan? Can't you see that she has a script with her at all times? She's here to act seriously. What are you doing here? You've formed cliques and swaggered around. Yet you have the nerve to say that I'm biased toward Xingyan? Do you think a teacher would care about the worst student? Bai Lin Lin, let me tell you, I'm going to get my lawyer to sue you for defamation. I have a family and a wife. I won't allow anyone to insult me like this. It was obvious that Director Wang was extremely angry. By the way, Bai Lin Lin, I don't think you can act in my film. You can leave right now. Director, what do you mean by that? What I mean is you can leave now. The production doesn't want you anymore. I'm going to replace you. Director Wang waved his hand in an imposing manner. No one dared to make a sound. As for the staff that were normally on good terms with Bai Lin Lin, all they knew at this moment was self-preservation. Director, I was just joking. Please don't replace me. I don't want to. When had Bai Lin Lin ever been treated like this? Especially when it hurt her self-esteem. But the industry was heartless. Even your sister was instantly crushed. So how could you compare? After speaking, Director Wang turned and left. As everyone witnessed Bai Lin Lin being swapped out, they began to reevaluate Chun Xingyan's status. Bai Lin Lin went around begging for help, but no one was willing to offend the director for her sake. Unless they didn't want to work anymore. Seeing this, Chun Xingyan was a little emotional, but she still grabbed her script and returned to her original position. Bai Lin Lin hated Chun Xingyan to the core. So, she pounced on her with the intention of hitting her. But not only was Chun Xingyan skilled, she also had Zaheo to protect her from the storm. So, as soon as Bai Lin Lin pounced on Zaheo pressed her to the ground. Chun Xingyan, I hate you. I will make you pay for everything that happened today 100-fold. However, Zaheo did not care as he turned to Chun Xingyan and praised. Well done. Chun Xingyan smiled confidently before she lowered her head and continued to study her script. In reality, she knew deep down that Tongning was the reason why she got what she wanted. If it wasn't for Tongning's resurgence, it would have been difficult for her to lay a finger on Bai Lin Lin. Seeing that there was no turning back, Bai Lin Lin pulled out her phone and gave Bai Yu a phone call. Sis, you need to get justice for me. At that moment, Bai Yu was not in the mood to care about Bai Lin Lin. As soon as she returned to the hotel, she found Tongning's commercial and watched it over a dozen times. She never imagined that Tongning was so scheming. First, she watched as Bai Lin Lin showed off to the public and won the applause of the audience. Then, Tongning took the opportunity to explode. Mo Ting's wife was indeed better at manipulating power than her. But there was still a lot to be done. It was still unknown who would come out on top. Perhaps, in Bai Yu's eyes, it wasn't easy for Tongning to deal with her. In reality, even without Bai Lin Lin, Tongning would still have done the same thing. But with Bai Lin Lin around, the effect was more obvious. Meanwhile, inside the walk-in wardrobe at Hyatt Regency, Tongning put on the dress she hadn't worn in a long time. It felt like a lifetime had passed. Afterwards, Mo Ting hugged her from behind. Are you planning to wear this for tomorrow's event? Chapter 753. I'm not a child. Do I need you to worry about me? Tongning patted Mo Ting on the back of his hand and smiled. Don't worry. Everything is perfect. After being suppressed for so long, it's time for me, Ning, to shine. Mo Ting mimicked a fan's tone. Although tomorrow's event isn't that important, it will be the first time you've made an appearance after giving birth. Plus, it was the best time to prove that Bai Yu was stupid. I understand. Tongning nodded. Let's go try on the costume in a couple of days. Right now, my mind is filled with images of you in ancient clothing, Mo Ting said to Tongning in the mirror. It will definitely be perfect. In reality, Tongning was also imagining Mo Ting dressed like an emperor in her mind. He would definitely shock everyone. Mo Ting and Tongning looked at each other through the mirror. The couple understood each other's thoughts, but Mo Ting did not show it. He simply placed a kiss on Tongning's back and left the wardrobe. He was afraid that if he continued to watch, he wouldn't be able to hold back and would end up in the wardrobe with Tongning. Meanwhile, after watching Tongning's commercial, Bayu found it hard to fall asleep. So, she got out of bed and gave a few of her friends in the industry a phone call. As soon as Tongning retaliates, she has no tolerance towards her enemies. Bayu, how did you provoke Tongning? She's not a pushover. She's already sent a few people to prison. Tongning has Mo Ting backing her up. Why did you fight with her? Bayu wanted to hear a different perspective. But when it came to Tongning, everyone avoided her. As soon as Tongning's name was mentioned, no one was interested in continuing the conversation. Bayu, you need to hold on to your role in concubine Ning. From now on, you better not compare yourself to Tongning. She simply looks weak. Before the poster of Tongning's suppression was released, why didn't these people say anything? Now that Tongning had made a comeback, they all learned how to dissuade her. She had only just begun her battle with Tongning, so she couldn't afford to panic. After all, she had been in Hollywood for so many years. Was there anyone she couldn't deal with? With this thought, Bayu returned to her room. As soon as she saw her husband leaning against the headboard, she sighed. At least, she wasn't completely helpless. She still had a husband that was obedient to her. This was Tongning's first public appearance after giving birth, so the amount of media attention she attracted couldn't be underestimated. Previously, she had been crushed by Bayu in all sorts of ways. Not only did she lose her figure, but she also lost her EQ. Yet, she couldn't even refute a single word. But now, as soon as he appeared, he was the spokesperson of a luxury brand. This battle of turning the tables was really satisfying. Her ability and figure had already been proven by the 30-second commercial. But what about her EQ? After being suppressed by Bayu, the media had no way of knowing Tongning's thoughts because they couldn't see her. But now that they had the chance to see her alive, they couldn't miss out on asking her for her thoughts. Opinion? She never did, but she did have a lot of methods. It was 7 o'clock in the evening. Although a lot of people from the fashion industry attended the launch of a certain luxury brand's new product, according to Tongning's current status, she was arranged to appear last. Facing the star-studded red carpet, the reporters anxiously waited to one side. As it had been a long time since they had seen Tongning, everyone was extremely curious as to whether she had maintained her perfect figure and was in top form, just like she had in the commercial. During the 1 hour of red carpet time, although they knew Tongning would appear last, the media's anticipation continued to rise. Every now and then, they would glance towards the entrance of the red carpet. Tonight, the nearby pharmacies are definitely going to be booming. I've discovered that everyone has been diagnosed with a disease called crooked neck. Haha, I can tell that everyone is looking forward to Tongning's arrival. The host smiled as he joked with the media. At the same time, he thought to himself, who said that Tongning was a has-been. From the media's anticipation, it was obvious that Tongning was still the same Tongning. Okay, there isn't much time left on the red carpet. I'm sure everyone's patience is about to run out. So, let's welcome our Tongning. As soon as the host mentioned Tongning's name, the two sides of the red carpet immediately erupted with excitement. All that could be heard was the sound of cameras shuddering. Afterwards, Tongning appeared at the entrance of the red carpet dressed in an elegant aqua blue dress. She had light makeup on, and her shoulder-length wavy hair made her look extremely gentle. Most importantly, her eyes were filled with life. Previously, they had only seen Bayu dance in front of the cameras, so they couldn't really compare. But now, as soon as they laid eyes on Tongning, there was only one feeling in everyone's eyes. Bayu is so tacky. Oh God! Tongning is here. Tongning, look over here. Tongning. The media rushed towards the red carpet like crazy. As soon as the security saw them, they immediately rushed over to maintain order. Tongning maintained a smile as she approached the host. After bowing to everyone, she then looked at the host. She knew that the host also had a mission to complete. Tongning, we've been waiting for you for a long time. You're finally here. You've worked hard, everyone. Tongning replied as she received the microphone. You've also worked hard. The commercial was really well done. My daughter has watched it at least 10 times at home. I'm really shocked. Plus, I can see that your body seems to be in better shape than before. What secret do you have? The host asked curiously. Actually, it's all thanks to a reasonable diet, Tongning replied in an official manner. Tongning, can you answer a few questions? The reporters on both sides of the red carpet were anxious. They had finally seen Tongning, and she was indeed unyielding, but they couldn't leave empty-handed. Sorry, the event is about to start. Our Tongning needs to get ready to enter the venue, the host immediately explained. At this time, Tongning lifted her wrist and looked at her watch. She then said to the reporters, I know what you want to ask. After the event is over, I can give you a few minutes. But the event is about to start. Sorry, everyone. We can wait. Tongning smiled at the crowd before she quickly entered the venue under the protection of the security guards. If Baiyu was in her shoes, she would have put on a pitiful expression. She obviously didn't like being interviewed, yet she pretended that she had no choice but to win the sympathy of the reporters. But after watching the live broadcast, Baiyu's fans scolded Tongning for pretending. When has that bitch ever been so kind as to meet with the reporters alone? She's just trying to compete with our Baiyu in terms of EQ. Keep pretending. Let's see how long she can keep up the act. She obviously doesn't have a good temper, yet she insists on putting on an act for others to see. How shameless. I can't wait to see what she has to say to the reporters. Chapter 754. The two women had both worked on the international stage, but their fields were different. If they were actors, Tongning would still be a newcomer who had only won one Best Newcomer award. But Baiyu already had a place in Hollywood. After comparing the two women for so long, Baiyu's fans directly called Tongning a dishonorable person. But the first person to view Tongning as an opponent was obviously Baiyu. I finally understand what it means to put the blame on someone else. When Mai Ning was at home taking care of a child, didn't a certain international award-winning actress post nonstop? Today, her EQ is high, and tomorrow, her figure is perfect. How come now that Mai Ning has made a comeback, it's become Mai Ning bullying others? Mai Ning is still a small-time actress. She knows that she can't match up to a certain international award-winning actress. Please let her off the hook. I must be speechless. What has Mai Ning said so far? Baiyu's fans are so guilty. The entire world owes Baiyu an Oscar. The fans of a certain international award-winning actress are like a bunch of hooligans. You just focus on acting in Concubine Ning. You don't need to worry about our royal concubine. The internet was in a frenzy, especially after Tongning promised to do an interview with the media after the launch of it. So, the internet fans decided to go around scolding Tongning for taking advantage of them. They even said that their own best actress couldn't be compared to Tongning. Even though they saw how beautiful Tongning was at the event, they weren't willing to admit it. After all, there was a saying that went, you can never wake up a person that's pretending to be asleep. The event lasted for a whole 2 hours. Tongning displayed her biggest appeal as a spokesperson, especially after the commercial was released. The pre-sales of a certain brand's new foundation broke all previous records and set a new record for the sales. Tongning's endorsements never disappointed. This made the advertisers extremely happy as they repeatedly affirmed Tongning's popularity and professional abilities as a model. After the event ended, Tongning even received a piece of luxury jewelry from the brand. Perhaps it was because she wanted to accept an interview. Tongning did not leave in a hurry. Instead, she waited for the other guests to leave before she walked out to face the reporters. After the advertisers found out about Tongning's situation, they specially lent the venue for her to accept an interview to show their support and love for her. The reporters were pleasantly surprised that they didn't have to interview an artist in an outdoor environment. Beijing was currently in the rainy season, so the outside of the venue was already soaking wet. The reporters quickly entered the venue. Seeing Tongning already standing on the stage, they quickly took their seats. Looking at the otherworldly Tongning, they felt an inexplicable sense of awe. But compared to awe, they were more curious. In everyone's eyes, this female artist, who was always going to be a has-been, had given you one resounding slap after another with endless surprises. It was as if she would not allow herself to lose no matter what. Okay, we don't have much time left. I still have a little rascal at home waiting to be fed. I hope everyone can ask your questions in an orderly manner. Of course, I reject any malicious speculation. If I come across a question like this, I will skip it, Tongning said as she looked at her diamond-encrusted watch. Please start. Raising one's hand to ask the question was a rule in the industry. So, the reporters all rushed to raise their hands and let Tongning choose who to answer. I would like to ask, did you really give up on Concubine Ning because of the quality of the script, or was it because you were unhappy that the female lead was stolen from you? I would like to ask, how do you feel about the crushing that Baiyu has received over the past few days? Baiyu has publicly spoken up for you on multiple occasions. How do you respond to this? I would like to know the gender of the babies. It's a boy, Tongning immediately replied as soon as she heard the reporters ask about the babies. Did Tongning mean to skip the first 3 questions? The reporters were here for these things. If Tongning didn't plan to respond, then there was no point in accepting the interview. Actually, Tongning, I am a fan of yours. What I want to ask you is a very sensitive question, but I hope you can answer it. Because, in my heart, you are not worse than anyone else. A female reporter stood up and said some heartfelt words to Tongning. As Tongning's fans, they all hoped that Tongning could slap Baiyu in the face and shut her fans up. Tongning was well aware of this fact. So, in the end, she picked up the microphone and said, "Firstly, the reason why I gave up on Concubine Ning is because of the script. Otherwise, I would have been looking forward to acting with Baiyu. I have always been focused on the character, not the person. As long as the character is good enough, I would be able to accept it, whether it's the female lead or the female lead. My identity as an actress exists for the sake of acting. Secondly, regardless of whether Baiyu is an actress or an international award-winning actress, she has the right to like and dislike anyone. I respect that. As for the crushing comment, I did not take it to heart. I know that I am not the person that the public portrays me to be, so there is no need for me to feel uneasy over the twisted truth. Most importantly, with comparison, I can clearly see the difference between 2 people. Since the fans were able to list 3 similarities between us, that means apart from these 3, there are thousands of other similarities that cannot be replicated. As for the words that Baiyu has said in public, that is her personal freedom. I have no way of determining whether someone is sincere or not, so I can only do my best. Lastly, I don't think there is much value in discussing which of us has a higher EQ. Because we have different values, we have different ways of doing things. But from the moment that I announced my comeback, I have made it clear that I am not a kind person. I will never forgive those that secretly bully me. I will respect those that respect me. Lastly, I will only place my sincerity and time on the people that I care about. Regardless of whether you think of me as arrogant or cold, I will not waste my time on people that have nothing to do with me. So, from now on, whether there is a comparison or a poster, I will treat it with a smile. I am well aware of the path that I want to walk and the type of person I want to become. Thank you to everyone that has been paying attention to me. I simply want to let everyone know that Tongning is back. As soon as Tongning finished speaking, the reporters felt a mixture of emotions. Within the industry, it was rare to see someone as direct as Tongning. She may not treat you well, but she wouldn't casually play tricks on you either. Because she wasn't willing to waste her time on you. She knew her identity and knew her value. She didn't overestimate herself, nor would she deliberately belittle herself for the sake of others. She wouldn't stop herself from moving forward for the sake of others. This was Tongning. Chapter 755. Does Tongning mean that she has never taken Baiyu seriously? Tongning's meaning is obvious. She doesn't want to compare herself to anyone because she has her own path to walk. Baiyu's poster has become a little awkward. Tongning is one of the few people in the industry that has their own ideas, while Baiyu is simply copying someone else's path. With this comparison, it's obvious who's better. Those that accused Tongning of throwing herself at Baiyu were embarrassed, because Tongning didn't care at all. She viewed herself as too important. Those that accused Tongning of showing off her EQ were simply expressing her inner thoughts. From the beginning, she had no intention of comparing herself to Baiyu. So, when Baiyu spoke up for Tongning during the interview, it was simply wishful thinking. In other words, the main point of Tongning's interview was that no matter what Baiyu did or said, It had nothing to do with her. All she wanted to do was film in peace. Baiyu's nervousness in front of Tongning became an understatement. She was able to overcome 1,000 kilograms with little effort. Haha, Baiyu is so embarrassed. She wrote and directed so many scenes, yet she was ignored by Tongning. I want to give Tongning full marks for her response. As an artist, you shouldn't appear too perfect in front of others. Otherwise, the audience will only magnify your flaws. Just wait and see. As soon as Baiyu's scandal is revealed, it will definitely be a disaster. Tongning, on the other hand, is different. She has already said from the start that she is not a kind person, and the audience understands this. From now on, if something else is revealed, everyone will understand Tongning's actions. The first thing they will think about is whether someone has crossed her bottom line. Baiyu, you should play by yourself. Tongning doesn't want to play with you. Indeed, Tongning's every step was firm. No matter how others tried to distract her, she would always stick to her own path. So, she had no need to care about others' comparisons. After the interview was over, the reporters slowly left the venue. Everyone had a satisfied expression on their faces. Even as they walked down the streets, they did not forget to discuss, this Tongning is really hard to hate. You always treat her with malice, yet you can feel her sincerity. At this point, she is indeed the one with the least cunning. Look at Baiyu. She spends so much time on the ways of the world. Where would she find the time to practice her acting? His words are nice, but the feeling he gives off is that he's very cunning. Who cares about her? Tongning already said she doesn't care about Baiyu. So why should we worry about it? It's fine as long as there's news to write. That's right. Although Baiyu cooperates with us every single time, there's never been a time where she didn't beat around the bush. Although Tongning isn't very cooperative because she keeps a low profile, every time she says something, it's always the answer the reporters want. I feel, no matter what, I have to stand on Tongning's side. How I wish we could interview people like Tongning. That way, we would be able to live up to our status as entertainment reporters. No matter what, Tongning's method was extremely effective. This made Tongning's fans proud. It didn't matter what Baiyu's fans said about Tongning throwing herself at them. If worst came to worst, they would just stop playing with her. After all, the big-name endorsement, the best script, the best management agency, and the best man would all belong to Tongning. Baiyu's fans were furious, but it was like they were throwing punches at cotton. They felt weak and powerless. They were obviously furious, but they couldn't find an excuse to vent their anger on Tongning's fans. As for the fans that were previously against Tongning participating in The Forensic Concubine, after seeing Tongning's strong comeback, especially after maintaining her perfect figure and energetic state, they couldn't help but feel defeated. Right now, in the entire Beijing entertainment industry, only Tongning can live up to her identity as Qinglan. Because she takes her acting seriously. She's been slapped in the face again. Tongning, you don't need to understand the ways of the world. We can help you. You simply need to be a good concubine. Tongning will be fine. You can do it, concubine. The people next door are about to go crazy. All hail the concubine. Quite a few people thought Tongning was going to argue with Baiyu during the interview. If that was really the case, they would be disappointed. But, in the end, her attitude was indifferent, and she looked at Tongning with a dumbfounded expression. Oh, she wants to compete with me? Do whatever you want. Speak up for me? It's not like I'm begging you. Are you trying to suppress me with a poster? Is this even possible? According to the netizens, all Tongning needed to do was roll her eyes and roar inside. I really don't want to play with you. At this moment, silence spoke louder than words. After watching the video of Tongning's interview at home, Baiyu smashed her computer on the floor and held her forehead as she spun around in her room. Tongning looked down on her. From the beginning, Tongning had never liked her. In fact, Tongning didn't even want to see her as an opponent. Baiyu was about to go crazy. She had never felt so humiliated before, but there was nothing she could do. How was she going to face the reporters tomorrow? Sis, get out! Baiyu yelled at Bai Linlin, who had just entered the house looking for her. How could Bai Linlin endure this? With tears in her eyes, Bai Linlin turned around and ran out of Baiyu's study room. But just as she left the house, she ran into Baiyu's husband. Lin, what's wrong? Brother-in-law. You need to help me, Bai Lin said to Bai Yu's husband with tears in her eyes. Let's go talk to brother-in-law in the living room. Bai Yu's husband was a pure American man. He was tall and had a mature and handsome appearance. In the past, he often appeared on stage. Later on, he became a director and then an actor. He had appeared in many roles in Hollywood and was quite famous. He fell in love with Bai Yu at first sight and married her within half a year. In Bai Lin's subconscious, she had never been cared for by a man during her childhood. So, as soon as Bai Yu's husband showed concern, she clung to him affectionately and refused to let go. Brother-in-law, my sister is bullying me. It's okay, you can tell brother-in-law. One of them didn't have a strong concept of relationships, and the other was a man that grew up in the U.S. So, they didn't notice that their actions were extremely intimate. Bai Lin briefly explained how Bai Yu had yelled at her, and the man immediately comforted her. Your sister is simply in a bad mood. If you have any problems from now on, just tell brother-in-law, and he will stick up for you. I understand, brother-in-law is still the best. After speaking, Bai Lin hugged the man a little tighter. The man was mesmerized by the fragrance of the young woman, and suddenly realized he was having a physiological reaction. But he did not reject her. After being married to Bai Yu for so many years, Bai Yu had never satisfied him in terms of sex. Unbeknownst to Bai Yu, while she was trying her best to win against Tongning, her family was about to be torn apart. Chapter 756. Afterwards, Hai Rui announced the auditions for the male lead of The Forensic Concubine. Mo Ting was indeed the CEO of Hai Rui. His eyes were sharp and accurate. Apart from Lin Sheng and Bai Chendong, these two people had the biggest impact in Beijing. One was Long Xing and the other was Lu Yiling. Both of them were popular candidates for Best Actor. So, Mo Ting's task was to find the most suitable one. Of course, Mo Ting was actually more inclined towards Long Xing compared to his appearance. He always placed more emphasis on his abilities. But what if Lu Yiling's acting skills were triggered when he acted with Tongning? However, when the day of the audition arrived, neither Long Xing nor Lu Yiling turned up for the audition. One of them rejected Hai Rui's offer because his schedule was full, while the other said he needed to rest for 6 months due to health issues. Yet, these two popular candidates actually rejected Hai Rui's offer with excuses. When their managers came to Hai Rui to explain, they looked helpless. Our Long Xing really can't shift his schedule. I'm so sorry, Assistant Lu. Our Xiao Xing really wants to act, but as an artist, we have to be honest. We can't reject a film that we've already agreed to, so. Assistant Lu, this is Lu Yiling's medical report. Due to overworking his body, his stomach and liver can no longer take it, so the agency has arranged for him to take 6 months off. After all, his health is more important than anything else. We're so sorry. Although Lu Che didn't know why the two men rejected Hai Rui's offer, he did not expose their excuses. After all, no one knew what was going on behind their backs. President, that's basically what happened. Both of their managers personally came to Hai Rui to apologize. From the looks of it, they didn't want to offend Hai Rui, but they had no choice. Lu Che placed the documents on Mo Ting's desk. Lu Che placed the information on Mo Ting's table and continued. I verified this information, and it was indeed as the manager said. But we all know that information like this can be deliberately faked. Give me a new list of actors and lower the requirements. Mo Ting instructed without lifting his head. Right now, we are in a period of shortage of actors. Bai Chendong and Lin Sheng can be considered, but they've already worked with the madam. Plus, Bai Chendong isn't suited for ancient costumes. As a result, there aren't many actors that can take on the role. In such a big entertainment industry, there aren't even a few qualified actors. There are some unknown actors with good acting skills and looks, but they are the type that will never become famous no matter how hard I try, so I don't want to take the risk. Lu Che handed over the resumes of a few other actors. If you have time, you can take a look. It didn't take long for Tongning to hear that neither male lead turned up for the audition. But what did Hai Rui have to offer? There were actually people who refused. It could be imagined that the sinister person behind the scenes must have offered even more generous conditions. What other reason could there be to stop the audition for the male lead? This meant that no one in the industry could meet the high standards of the forensic concubine. Everyone knew that casting for a good script was also very important. This was also one of the deciding factors for the success of a film or TV series. After coaxing the babies to sleep, Tawning took the opportunity to pick up the script for The Forensic Concubine. In reality, this was more to her liking. Everything started from the moment you heard that Long Xing and Lu Yiling were both going to star in The Forensic Concubine. Since Mo Ting and Tongning had their eyes on them, she was going to think of a way to snatch them away from Tongning's hands. So, she arranged to meet with Long Xing and Lu Yiling separately. Her words were very tempting. If you guys take on The Forensic Concubine, it will simply be a female drama. In the end, the only person that will shine will be Tongning. But it will be a waste of your time and will not help you in your fight for Best Actor. You should know that Tongning is Mo Ting's treasure. If you were to actually join the cast, do you think you would still have any human rights? But if you sign with my agency, things will be different. After all, you will have a place in Hollywood, and we'll be able to connect the two of you to the international scene. But will Hairui do that for you? Although Baiyu's actions were despicable, Long Xing and Lu Yiling had to admit that there was nothing wrong with her words. Of course, appearing in The Forensic Concubine would bring them popularity, but they no longer lacked popularity. What they lacked was certainty. So, if they went overseas to gain experience, they would have a natural advantage. By the time they returned home, they would be international superstars and their careers would rise by a few levels. So, they rejected the audition for The Forensic Concubine. As a result, there was no suitable male lead for The Forensic Concubine. Mo Ting and Tongning were people that pursued perfection. Even if they had no choice but to settle for the next best thing, they would still do their best and not randomly pick someone to take on the role. 7 p.m., Mo Ting returned home. Seeing Tongning in the kitchen preparing dinner, he immediately wrapped his arms around her from behind. "Why are you so tired? Are you worried that I don't have a male lead?" "It's not like Hairui can't even find a male lead," Mo Ting replied in a deep voice. "Then, why aren't you happy?" "I simply want to deliver the best into your hands." Tongning rolled her eyes as she put down the spatula and turned to face Mo Ting. "If you really want to deliver the best into my hands, I think I have a suitable candidate. I'm just afraid you won't agree." Mo Ting looked deeply into Tongning's eyes. He could guess what she was thinking, so he shook his head. "I don't know how to do it." "Don't give me that thought. Grandfather already told me." Tongning immediately retorted. "I've already asked Grandfather. If you are willing to take on the role, Grandfather is willing to temporarily manage Hairui. He won't think about running the company. I've never thought about doing this. I'm actually very resistant to it," Mo Ting replied honestly. After hearing this, Tongning nodded her head and comforted Mo Ting. "It's okay. If you don't want to, then forget it. We can find someone else. I simply feel it's a pity. I thought your ancient costume would definitely be stunning, but you don't like it." Mo Ting did not say a word, but he tightened his grip around Tongning. "It's okay, it's really okay. I've always been forcing you. Things haven't reached that stage yet. I promise you, if we really can't find a male lead, I will be the substitute." "How could you be a substitute?" Tongning immediately retorted. "But I really don't know how to act." Tongning thought for a moment and nodded her head. "Okay, there's finally something that President Mo doesn't know how to do." Then, Tongning pondered to herself. "As if I'd believe you." Chapter 757. Lu Che tidied up a new batch of information and placed it on Mo Ting's desk. He then placed a few suitable candidates at the very front. "While screening through these actors, I discovered a male actor that is a little unreasonable, but has outstanding acting skills. His name is Huang Fushuo. This man has the image of a typical rich young master and fits perfectly with one of the actors we are looking for. Although his actions are a little wild, he hasn't made any major mistakes. Perhaps we can train him a little. Most importantly, there is something interesting about him. Mo Ting flipped to Huang Fushua's resume and asked Lu Che, "Have you contacted him?" "I have. His manager said that Huang Fushua is currently on holiday and can start work at any time." Lu Che nodded. "Show me all the films he has ever worked in and also gather some information about him. It would be best if you can find a more complete one," Mo Ting instructed as he threw the information aside. "I've prepared everything. It's on your left. You can have a look at it when you have time. Most importantly, this male actor may be hard to invite, but if the president personally makes a move, it should be a cinch." In some ways, Lu Che quite liked Huang Fushua's wild and unrestrained attitude. This male actor relied purely on his talent to make a living and did not have much ambition. But when it came to work, he was extremely professional. His only problem was that he was a little annoying and liked to take advantage of actresses. Lu Che had seen a few interviews with Huang Fushua and felt that they were all pretty good. He did not disgrace his identity as an actor. Most importantly, he and Baiyu were inextricably linked. He is indeed quite interesting. Huang Fushua doesn't lack anything. Everything he does depends on his mood. He hates flattery from others and prefers excitement and challenges, Lu Che explained in seriousness. "Let's meet with his manager and discuss a detailed plan. Of course, the most important thing is to arrange an audition for Huang Fushua." Mo Ting had a slight impression of this actor. He had a lot of scandals, but he was never afraid and continued to do things his way in the industry. There was only one redeeming quality about him: his attitude towards acting. His professionalism was no worse than any other big-name actor. Of course, if Hai Rui wanted to use an actor like this, it would be extremely risky and bold. If they weren't careful, the entire production team would end up in a mess. But who was he? He was Mo Ting. As long as he was in this industry, there was nothing he couldn't suppress. Have you guys heard that the forensic concubine still hasn't found a suitable male lead? During their free time, the crew of Concubine Ning gossiped amongst themselves. But their words were filled with a sense of schadenfreude. After all, they were competitors and the crew that Tong Ning had given up on. Out of a protective heart, when the crew heard that the forensic concubine had yet to make any progress, they couldn't help but cover their mouths and laugh. There will be retribution for splashing dirty water on others. This is the cycle of karma. Tong Ning has always been so arrogant. Let's see what she does this time. I heard both male lead candidates rejected the role. How satisfying. How can that kind of lousy production team be compared to us? As Baiyu finished filming, she overheard the staff gossiping and couldn't help but smile. This was exactly what she wanted to achieve. Afterwards, Baiyu and her assistant left the film studio and returned to the hotel arranged by the production crew. However, when she thought about how she yelled at Bai Linlin, she decided to give Bai Linlin a phone call as she returned to the hotel. However, what she didn't expect was that after the call was connected, it was actually a man's voice. "Who are you?" As soon as the man on the other side of the phone heard Baiyu's voice, he immediately hung up. Baiyu thought it was one of the young men that Bai Linlin had met while fooling around, so she did not continue to call. What a useless person. "Yu Jie, don't be angry. Linlin is still young." Still young? Baiyu returned to her room in disappointment. She did not suspect the man's voice at all. After her shower, Baiyu gave her husband a phone call. As usual, the couple said goodnight to each other before Baiyu fell asleep. However, she had no idea that on the other side of the phone, the man that she trusted so much was currently carrying her drunk sister towards the hotel. "Brother-in-law, you are so handsome." "Brother-in-law." Bai Linlin was in a daze. Only her subconscious mind knew who this man was. The man placed Bai Linlin on his shoulder. After retrieving the room card, he carried Bai Linlin into the room and placed her on the bed. "Linlin, do you like your brother-in-law?" Bai Linlin hooked her arms around the man's neck and laughed. "I do, but I don't like how well you treat my sister." "In that case, how about I treat you well from now on?" The man coaxed. "Okay." Bai Linlin nodded her head, but she finally realized what the man wanted to do. All she could do was sit on the bed in a daze, not daring to move. As their eyes met, the man suddenly stopped and asked patiently, "Can you give it to brother-in-law? From now on, brother-in-law will only treat you well." If you don't want to, then we can pretend nothing happened, and I'll take you home immediately. Bai Lin was stunned, thinking about how the brother-in-law that she had always admired suddenly said something like this. Her heart raced. At this point, how could she care about whether this was her sister's husband or not? She directly hugged him, and the couple crossed the line. They spent the entire night tangled together in the hotel room and completely forgot about Bai Yu. The next morning, Tawning found out from Lu Che that Mo Ting had confirmed that Huang Fu Shul would be attending the audition. Although she felt it was a shame, she still followed Mo Ting's instructions and decided to observe Huang Fu Shua's acting. Mo Ting looked at Tawning, who did not say a word throughout breakfast. He knew what she was hoping for, but he was determined to get rid of all the obstacles along the way. You didn't eat much for breakfast. How could this be nutritious? Tawning shook her head and refused to eat any more. The weather is getting hot. I can't eat that much. Are you wondering why I would rather find an actor like Huang Fu Shua than act myself? Not really, Tawning denied. You will know the reason in the future. Mo Ting did not explain himself clearly, but he had his own plans. I'm going to go feed the babies breakfast first. Tawning nodded her head. Deep down, she had complete trust in Mo Ting. Even if Mo Ting didn't say anything, she was still a little suspicious. After all, Mo Ting wasn't someone that didn't know what he was doing. Her husband never hid anything from her. Above all, Mo Ting was an outstanding decision-maker. Mo Ting patted Tawning on the head and stood up to check on the babies before heading to the office. Huang Fu Shua would be attending an audition at Hai Rui today. He indeed had the intention to sign Huang Fu Shua, but he had never said that he wanted him to play the male lead. To prevent a similar situation with Long Xing and Lu Yiling from happening again, he had to use a smokescreen. Chapter 758. President Mo, are you saying that you want me to act as the second male lead? Inside Hai Rui's meeting room, Huang Fu Shua sat opposite Mo Ting as he pointed to himself in disbelief. Me, the second male lead? I've seen all of your work. Giving you the role of the second male lead was a decision that I made after evaluating your abilities, Mo Ting said with the attitude of a king of the entertainment industry. Although you've played the male lead in the past, do you think your role is up to standard? Huang Fu Shua looked at Mo Ting with the attitude of a king in the entertainment industry. President Mo, everyone in the industry knows that I, young Master Huang Fu, act according to my mood. I'm not used to the way you speak. Huang Fu Shua was handsome. He was the type that looked extremely attractive at first glance. But with a change of style, he could change into another style. He was quite flexible. However, his attitude, I don't want to act. What a joke. You debuted at the age of 17. At that time, you were still a good boy and suffered a lot because of the unwritten rules. But at that time, a woman gave you a lot of encouragement, but ended up abandoning you. So, from then on, you presented yourself as a plebe. Aren't you curious as to why she abandoned you? After hearing this, Huang Fu Shua immediately put away his carefree attitude and became a little angry. So, Hai Rui likes to dig up other people's secrets. Afterwards, she hooked up with a singer. But after a short period of time, the singer disappeared. So, she aborted the child and went overseas to marry a famous actor in Hollywood. You win, Huang Fu Shua scoffed. I've seen the contents of your audition. It's very good. Are you going to sign it? Mo Ting changed the topic. Actually, you really want to question her and attract her attention. That's why you're acting so seriously. Unfortunately, her status is too high for you to reach. Now, Hai Rui is giving you a chance. I can guarantee that as long as Hai Rui announces that they will be joining the royal concubine, she will look at you differently. Do you think I care? Huang Fu Shua scoffed. Yes, you don't care. But you can make a beautiful turnaround in front of her and make her regret it. Will it really happen as you say? Don't you know? Right now, Bai Yu is going around posting posters to crush my wife. What do you think she would think if she were to find out that the lover she once abandoned is acting in her enemy's film? Mo Ting asked straightforwardly. That would be awesome, okay? Huang Fu Shua was tempted. Although he had already matured, sometimes What harm was there in being willful for once? What else can I say? Of course I signed it. Happy working with you. Xiaomo Huangfu Shuo once again returned to his carefree self. In reality, Tongning had already come across plenty of situations like this. But Huangfu Shuo, how should she put it? Everyone had a story that they couldn't talk about. It was like a thorn hidden in the depths of their hearts. You think it is thin, it is small, it is insignificant, but once touched, it is fatal pain. Some people could be cured by others, like Tongning. However, the majority of them continued to move forward with the burden on their backs. I heard you've already signed Huangfu Shuo. Is that true? Tongning asked as she sat at the dining table during dinner. Have you confirmed it? Okay. Mo Ting nodded. Tongning lowered her head. It seemed this was the first time Mo Ting had made a decision without discussing it with her. But I don't think Huangfu Shuo has any chance of being the male lead. I'm not talking about his scandals. I'm talking about his acting. Although Tongning wanted to hold back, in the end, she still revealed her unhappiness to Mo Ting. Don't you think you've made this decision too rashly? After hearing this, Mo Ting stopped eating and pulled Tongning into his embrace, placing her on his lap. You're the only one that knows. Don't you think I'm the only one that knows? It's because I know Huangfu Shuo isn't cut out for the role that I only signed him on as the second male lead. Idiot. Second male lead? Tongning was stunned for quite some time before she reacted. Because he is Baiyu's first love and was once abandoned by her. Since Baiyu is so good at persuading people, let's see if she has the guts to approach Huangfu Shuo, Mo Ting said with a vengeance. This was Mo Ting, the black-bellied Mo Ting. As long as someone wanted to bully Tongning, he would definitely find a way to fight back. Even though Lu Che was the one who had done a great job this time. Tongning immediately understood Mo Ting's intention as she pinched his thigh. I really don't know what to do with you. What about the male lead? For such an important character, no matter what, the mystery must be revealed at the last moment. All right, you've really made me nervous. After speaking, Tongning tried to stand up, but Mo Ting wrapped his arms around her waist and said in a low voice, Don't touch me. Don't go. Huh? Tongning was confused. I don't think I've asked for you on this dining table, Mo Ting replied as he lifted his handsome face. This time, Tongning couldn't help but be surprised. I've already repaid what I owed you. No, I'm paying you back now. I owe you. After speaking, Mo Ting placed Tongning on the dining table. He no longer cared about anything else. At this moment, all he wanted to do was become one with her. How could there be such a magical woman in this world? How could she make him fall in love more and more, wanting to possess her more and more? The next day, another actor for The Forensic Concubine was confirmed. Huangfu Shuo was confirmed to be joining the cast. But Hai Rui was very experienced in not announcing the role he would be playing. As a result, the public couldn't help but guess. Were they planning to cast Huangfu Shuo as the male lead? Regarding this, fans of the novel couldn't decide whether to agree or disagree. If they were to reject Huangfu Shuo, he was handsome, dressed in ancient clothing, and most importantly, had decent acting skills. But if they were to accept him, he had too many tricks up his sleeves. Of course, even though he was passionate, he wasn't too promiscuous. As soon as this news was released, the ones that were shocked the most weren't the fans. After all, Mo Ting wasn't aiming for the fans, he was aiming for Baiyu. As expected, as soon as Baiyu saw the news, her face turned pale. If she hadn't seen this name with her own eyes, she would have forgotten that she once had a past like this. Hai Rui actually cast Huangfu Shuo as the male lead. Huangfu Shuo? Was he even worthy? Plus, did Hai Rui know something? Otherwise, why would they choose Huangfu Shuo out of so many other actors? She had never admitted to her relationship with Huangfu Shuo. If Huangfu Shuo remained a nobody, it would be easier to control him. But if Huangfu Shuo became famous and revealed that she once abandoned him for the sake of climbing up the social ladder, then Chapter 759. Mo Ting was wrong. He had completely underestimated how shameless Baiyu could be. Bai was definitely shameless enough to look for Huang Fushua. After all, she didn't think that exposing this matter would benefit Huang Fushua in any way. For the sake of mutual benefit, after careful consideration, she asked her manager to find out where Huang Fushua was living. Afterwards, she geared up and headed over to Huang Fushua's home while she had nothing to do in the morning. But, to her surprise, Huang Fushua was living all by himself in a 300-square-meter villa. Back when they were still together, Huang Fushua was still a nobody. Who would have thought? He was now so rich. Huang Fushua also didn't expect Bai to show up. So, as soon as he opened the door and saw her, a look of surprise flashed across his face. Seeing this, Bai removed her sunglasses and smiled at Huang Fushua. "Aren't you going to invite me in?" Huang Fushua stepped aside to let her in. He then followed behind Bai and said, "There's nothing at home, just plain water." "It doesn't matter. That's not why I'm here." Bai elegantly sat down on the sofa. Huang Fushua sneered. Mo Ting's method was indeed effective. Previously, he had done so many useless things, but he had failed to attract Bai's attention. Who would have thought, after taking on the forensic concubine, this woman would anxiously come knocking on his door? "Why are you looking for me? It can't be that you're here to catch up, right?" Huang Fushua sat down on the sofa opposite Bai and placed his hands behind his back. He looked extremely relaxed. "I never thought that after so many years, you would be able to afford such a nice place. Are you talking about this house?" Huang Fushua chuckled and replied, "I've lived in this house for more than 20 years. "Oh, I see. I didn't even have the chance to introduce my family to you before you heartlessly abandoned me. I think if you knew who my father was, you wouldn't have left so decisively, right?" "What do you mean?" "Huang Fuxiong, the vice president of Tiffany Co.'s Asia region, is my father." Huang Fushua formally introduced himself to Bai. "It was only after you abandoned me that I realized that being a rich second-generation heir wasn't that bad." After hearing this, Bai's expression did not look too good. "My father has wanted to meet you for a long time because he has been laughing at me for many years. How could my foresight be so bad back then? It's all thanks to you that he didn't lose a single cent and allowed his son to return to his side." Bai was indeed a little disappointed, but she knew that Huang Fushua already hated her. So, she decided not to think too much about it. Instead, she changed the subject. "Let's get back to business. I heard you accepted the role of male lead in The Forensic Concubine." Huang Fushua did not reply. He simply raised his eyebrows, waiting to hear what Bai had to say next. "You still care about me, right? Otherwise, why would you join the enemy camp even though you knew I was competing with Tongning?" After hearing this, Huang Fushua immediately laughed out loud. "Miss Bai, aren't you overthinking things? Yes, part of the reason I acted in The Forensic Concubine was because of you, but I just want you to remember what you've done in the past and what kind of person you are. When are you going to remove your mask?" By the way, aren't you well aware why I acted in The Forensic Concubine? According to Tongning's acting, Hai Rui's capabilities and the quality of the script, why would I reject such a valuable offer?" Huang Fushua questioned Bai. "I don't care why you acted in The Forensic Concubine. I simply want to tell you that exposing our relationship in the past will not do either of us any good." Bai's aura weakened. As she spoke, she sounded a little angry from embarrassment. This was completely different from what she expected. She was here to show off. She was here to flaunt her power. She was here to be pitiful. Who would have thought? Huang Fushua did not give her what she wanted. Instead, she found out about Huang Fushua's illustrious family background. This made her feel extremely regretful. This made her feel extremely frustrated, and she wished she could immediately find a hole to bury herself in. "Have you finally told me why you're here?" Huang Fushua suddenly laughed. "You must be dreaming. As the almighty prince of the jewelry industry, I don't want to have anything to do with a two-faced person like you. I think it would lower my status. Bai, when it comes to family background, you can't even compare to a single person that you view as an enemy. I don't know where you get your sense of superiority from. How dare you compare yourself to Tongning, International Best Actress? Just you wait and see how Tongning defeats you." By the way, I won't expose your past scandals, but it doesn't mean I won't remove your mask of hypocrisy. Take care. After speaking, Huang Fushua stood up from the sofa and crossed his arms. The door is right in front of you. I won't be seeing you out. Baiyu's expression was extremely ugly. She didn't gain any advantage from Huang Fushua. In the end, she clenched her handbag and stood up angrily. However, she simply said to Huang Fushua's back, "With your acting skills, Tongning will never surpass me." Huang Fushua did not turn around. He simply shrugged his shoulders. It didn't matter. After all, he wasn't the male lead. Baiyu had no choice but to leave Huang Fushua's home. She was so angry that she was about to explode, but she couldn't think of a way to deal with Huang Fushua. Should she find someone to slander Huang Fushua? Sorry, he had already slandered himself enough. This little bit of slander was nothing to him. That was why it was said that people couldn't maintain a perfect appearance, because people with flaws were easier to forgive. However, when a perfect person made a mistake, it would only attract countless curses. It would forever be a black mark that couldn't be erased. After this incident, Huang Fushua was truly satisfied, because he had finally seen the complete Baiyu. Of course, the most satisfying thing was Baiyu's anger and shame, as well as the flash of regret in her eyes when she heard about his family background. Baiyu was annoyed. In order to find a sense of balance, she needed to hurry home and see her husband. Only then would she feel that she had made the right choice. However, her husband wasn't home and he didn't pick up his phone. Baiyu sat on the sofa and waited for a long time. After about 2 hours, she finally heard her husband and Bai Linlin laughing outside the door. "Wifey, why are you home?" As soon as Bai Linlin saw Baiyu sitting on the sofa, she immediately put on a serious expression and greeted her timidly. "How did the two of you end up together?" "We bumped into each other outside," Bai Linlin replied angrily before she returned to her room. Baiyu did not notice anything amiss, so she did not dare to tell her husband that she was going to see Huang Fushua. So, she simply hung around for a while before she returned to the set. But, to everyone's surprise, as soon as she left, the couple that were still at home exchanged glances and soon rolled onto the same bed. Chapter 760. Huang Fushua had always been rumored to be the male lead of The Forensic Concubine. Of course, he was more than happy to be the scapegoat. After all, the production crew had no intention of announcing the male lead and kept the entire shoot to a private location. Hairue had a few film studios under them, so this wasn't difficult to achieve. So, without any official announcements or events, Huang Fushua naturally took on the role of promoting The Forensic Concubine. After taking on the role, he did not change the fact that he was surrounded by beautiful women. Filming was filming and life was life. He never mixed it up. Plus, he had recently dealt a blow to Baiyu, so he was in an extremely good mood. So, whenever the reporters interviewed him, he would mention The Forensic Concubine to fulfill his responsibility as an actor and to repay Mo Ting for giving him the opportunity to humiliate Baiyu. Actually, it had already been a month since he was announced to be on set, but even he had not seen the male lead, because for the first few days he had been filming for supporting roles. Tongning had not officially joined the cast yet. Perhaps it was because of the 2 kids that she had not made the necessary arrangements yet. Huang Fushua did not mind. After all, he liked his role as the second male lead and liked his costume even more. Donning a silver dragon-embroidered robe and a jade crown on his head, he looked powerful and domineering with an imposing aura. Compared to the male lead, his character was a lot more relaxed. He didn't have as many complicated schemes and worries. On one hand, he had to admire the female lead and not let her see through him. On the other hand, he had a scheme to protect his empire. A person like this, living in real life, must be tiring. Actually, 2 days before Tongning joined the cast, she tried to test Mo Ting. But Mo Ting did not show any signs of abnormality. He simply went to work as usual and took care of the babies. He was really too calm and collected, as this is our own production team. We can make flexible arrangements. So, You can go home at night, and the two mothers can take care of the babies during the day, Ting instructed. If you're too tired and want to sleep in the hotel, give me a call, and I'll make arrangements. That's right, Ting instructed. Are you sure you don't have anything to say to me? Tong asked one last time. Do I? Ting lowered his head and continued to help her pack her luggage. This time, the set will be completely sealed off. During filming, the set will be cleared out and the extras will sign a confidentiality agreement. So, you don't need to worry about anything. With you here, what do I have to worry about? Tong was a little discouraged. Don't think too much. Hurry up and check on the baby. Go to sleep and rest. Tong nodded her head. After quickly washing up, she returned to her bedroom. As she had to wake up early, she didn't want to waste any more time in case she felt tired. But, after she fell asleep, Ting headed straight for the studio that Hai Rue had prepared. President, everything has been arranged. Lu Che and the rest of the staff were ready, especially the makeup artist and cameraman. They were all ready to go. Put on your makeup. Ting sat down in front of the vanity mirror. President Mo is so good-looking. This was the first time the makeup artist had been in such close contact with Ting. As soon as she saw his handsome face, not only was she shy, she couldn't help but praise him. Do your job well, Ting instructed coldly. The makeup artist nodded her head and quickly placed the white jade crown on Ting's head. With the addition of the silver armor, the domineering aura of a king was enough to stun everyone present. In fact, the cameraman forgot he was still holding onto his camera as he dropped it onto the ground and smashed it into the back of his foot. As expected, when the president makes a move, no other actors in Beijing have anything to do. Lu Che nodded his head in satisfaction. This military uniform was for the female lead to bravely kill enemies on the battlefield. Women were most infatuated with men when they were heroic like this, especially a man like Ting, who was born with the aura of a king. If he was born in ancient times, his appearance would definitely cause chaos. Handsome. He is so handsome. His side profile, his lips, his nose bridge, and his eyebrows. I feel like I've been shocked by electricity. Tonight, they were only shooting promotional photos, but the photographer couldn't stop himself. When it came to beautiful things, people couldn't help but want to look at them for as long as possible. Afterwards, Ting changed into a dragon robe. A few of the staff hiding in the dark were extremely excited. Oh God, how can there be a man like President Mo in this world that is born with an aura of abstinence? As soon as he puts on this dragon robe, all I want is to be his concubine. Damn, I can't even share a photo of such a handsome man. What a shame. Hey, when the photos are released, all the men in Beijing will realize the difference between us. That's right, that's right. Oh God, I'm so excited. I wonder if Tong has seen it. Of course, Tong hadn't seen it. At this time, she was sleeping soundly at home. The next morning, Ting woke up at home. It was like he had forgotten everything that happened on set the night before. After tidying up, he escorted Tong to the set. If you miss me, give me a call. Just like before, Ting carefully reminded Tong and made arrangements for everything on set before he turned and left. Director Chen Feng received the photos early in the morning. At that time, he was also shocked. However, Ting didn't want to reveal it, so he decided to keep it a secret. All the answers would be revealed in the future. Director Chen, where's our male lead? When will he be joining the set? One of the supporting actors asked. Even Tong is here. How big of a name is this male lead? Due to his current schedule, he can't join the set yet. He will first film the supporting actors' scenes. There won't be any delays, Director Chen Feng comforted. Okay, it's good that Tong is here. But we haven't seen Tong in an ancient costume yet. The spoilers for Concubine Ning are almost done. The fans are praising Bai Yu like she's unique. Am I the only one who's mistaken? Why do I feel like someone has been in the US for so long that their appearance doesn't match up? You will see it in the future, Chen Feng laughed. Actually, Tong's looks made her look even more ancient. She was tall, graceful, and exuded a peaceful aura. So, the production crew had a lot of confidence in her. As long as she was dressed up properly, she could easily make Bai feel inferior. On the afternoon that Tongning joined the set, the makeup artist began to make some adjustments to her appearance. Afterwards, Tongning spent the entire afternoon in the waiting room. Tongning's appearance was split into 3 stages. First, she was the cold concubine of the late emperor. Second, she was the dignified empress dowager. And finally, she was the more feminine imperial concubine. The stylist and makeup artist had been inspired by concubine Ning, so they spent a lot of time and effort on Tongning's appearance. Of course, whether it was as a model or an actress, Tongning would never disappoint. The first thing she tried on was the simple and elegant look of the cold concubine. As the stylist finished adjusting her plain dress, the people in the waiting room were stunned. Tongning could be drawn straight into a painting. Chapter 761. She looked like she had come from a painting. There were many different styles of hair accessories in ancient times. A snake bun was definitely one of the more difficult ones. But when placed on Tongning's head, it didn't look cumbersome at all. As she was the cold concubine, she practically didn't use any hairpins or ornaments. Instead, she looked elegant and noble. Dressed in a light yellow robe, she looked warm and spirited. But her eyes were cold and distant, giving off a sense of alienation. Before Qinglan transmigrated to this world, she had always loved warm, colored robes. This was because, when the previous emperor first met her, he had told her that light yellow made her look warm and refreshing. From then on, she fell in love with light yellow robes. However, from that moment on, her tragic life began. The previous emperor never summoned her again. Although she wasn't banished to the cold palace, she was treated like an abandoned concubine. She's so beautiful, she's so beautiful. It was at this time that Qinglan met the similarly unloved prince, Junilan, an unloved concubine raising an unloved prince. Even though they were only 3 years apart, the two of them treated each other like mother and son. The previous Qinglan, of course, didn't have the talent to teach Junilan. But after transmigrating to this world, she was exceptionally talented. Junilan, in order to prevent the woman he loved from suffering in the cold palace, decided to bravely become the ruler of a country. Tongning felt heartbroken for the relationship between the two main characters. At the same time, she sighed. Luckily, she lived in the modern world, in a rich, powerful, and free country. If these photos were to be released, everyone would go crazy. They're so beautiful, the makeup artist exclaimed. What about the male lead? Tongning asked. I still don't know who the male lead is. I'm sure you guys have already done some styling, right? No, the staff shook their heads. This is the truth. Fine, I won't make things difficult for you. It seemed the only person on set that knew who the male lead was the director. Tongning cooperated and took stills for both of her looks. The photographer was extremely satisfied with the result. Tongning smiled without saying a word. After work was over, she returned to the set to watch the supporting actors film their scenes. The director was Chun Feng, so the quality of the film was naturally indescribable. Not only that, even the extras were especially attentive. It was obvious that Mo Ting had put in a lot of effort in such a short period of time to find all sorts of talented actors. After all, there was nothing more important than acting. This made Tongning feel a little relieved. The mystery of the male lead became a topic of discussion among the crew. But Chun Feng did not explain. After all, the answer would be revealed when the time came. It didn't take long before the production crew of The Forensic Concubine released Tongning's final photo to the public. Quick look, Tongning's photo is out. Wow, she didn't disappoint. She's really beautiful. As a fan of The Forensic Concubine, after seeing these photos, I can't help but feel confident in Tongning. Especially when it comes to her acting, just looking at her photos is enough to captivate people. Tongning's acting lies in her eyes. They are especially good at conveying things and are extremely accurate. After seeing these photos, I am even more certain that she is an actress. I love Tongning's beauty. Afterwards, someone placed Tongning and Baiyu's photos next to each other for comparison. This was natural. After all, both of them were popular figures and they were competitors, so the audience couldn't help but compare their abilities. But Baiyu's fans had previously praised Baiyu like she was a goddess. But when placed next to Tongning's photos, she became like a passerby and looked especially old. I feel like Baiyu was playing the role of Tongning's mother. Ha ha ha, that's true. Previously, when I looked at Baiyu, I thought she wasn't bad. Her makeup was really thick and she looked stunning. She had the presence of concubine Ning. But when placed next to Tongning, I can't see anything wrong with her. Baiyu's fans immediately refuted. The two of them are from different times, of course they can't be compared. Exactly. The mask on Tongning's head is almost crushing her to death. Tongning looks like a white lotus. How is she as domineering as our Baiyu? Seeing this, the crew of the Forensic Concubine once again released a photo of Tongning as the Empress Dowager. This time, Baiyu's fans were speechless. Baiyu's makeup was from a different time period, but her eyes were exactly the same as before. But Tongning was different. The coldness and desolation of the cold concubine and the fierceness and helplessness of the Empress Dowager were all seen through by a single glance. Based on the photos, Tongning is the complete winner. I've always felt that Tongning's acting is a product of talent. She has a high level of understanding. Although other people can also hone their acting skills, they can't compare to her. Look at how Baiyu's fans boast. They're always so confident. But when they get slapped in the face, they always try to turn the tables around. What an eye-opener. I can't wait for the Forensic Concubine. Although I already know the plot, I'm sure it will be fun to watch Tongning act. Although it's a pity that the male lead is a bit of a stretch, I hope they can take a photo together. That's right. The public had always thought that Huang Fushua was the male lead, so they had this kind of attitude. But even though Tongning had been on set for a few days, no one had heard anything about the male lead. Instead, she began to get closer to Huang Fushua. In reality, Huang Fushua liked crowds and Tongning liked silence. The two simply looked at each other, but they never spoke to each other. After all, their personalities were worlds apart. Huang Fushua was the happiest person on set. So, when he heard other people's discussions, he teased his narcissism. Bro is the male lead. Who else could be more suitable than me? You guys talk about the male lead all the time. Don't tell me I'm not as handsome as the male lead. In reality, the crew of the Forensic Concubine did not announce their male lead. This was a strategy of the Forensic Concubine. Yeah, the crew next door probably only have this much to show. After all, the male lead isn't that likable. Baiyu's assistant comforted. Her assistant comforted Baiyu on set. They've already used their big moves. Let's see what else they can do to attract attention. Perhaps the only thing that people criticized about the Forensic Concubine was that Huang Fushua didn't have the qualifications to play the male lead. But at this time, the official Weibo account of the Forensic Concubine suddenly responded to a fan's question. The official production has not announced the male lead. This is a big surprise. The official Weibo user is looking forward to the day the mystery is revealed. Huang Fushua had misled the public for so long because he wanted to divert Baiyu's attention. Now that filming had begun, it was time to clarify the rumors. At this time, the public were shocked. So, Huang Fushua isn't the male lead. It's actually not the male lead. I can't help but let out a sigh of relief. Then who will it be? I can't wait. Chapter 762. Although Tongning wanted to find out who the male lead was, she wasn't in a rush. She knew they were bound to bump into each other during filming. It was only a matter of time. As they knew that Tongning didn't have a manager or assistant, the production crew took extra care of her. In fact, some of the staff didn't quite understand why. Look at you. You're so famous now that you can get whatever you want. Why don't you find yourself a good assistant? Look at those big shots. They all have 2 assistants and 4 bodyguards by their side. This is already the norm. Yet, you still do everything yourself. The Annie that delivered food to the production crew noticed that Tongning didn't have anyone to collect her lunch, so she took the initiative to deliver it to her. As Tongning ate, she felt a warm sensation in her mouth. I think I'm fine on my own. There's nothing worth taking care of. Annie, you're a good person. Hayes, it's rare to see a down-to-earth person like you. You should eat more. It wasn't that Tongning didn't need an assistant, but because of the incident with Song Yinshu, she no longer felt it was necessary. Especially after giving birth to 2 babies, she no longer felt she needed someone to take care of her. Tongning smiled and accepted the Annie's kindness. A moment later, a surprised voice from the production crew could be heard. I heard that the male lead has joined the cast. The male lead has joined the cast. In that case, did you see who it was? I heard it from someone else. Won't we be able to see him in the afternoon? Indeed, the two would have a scene together in the afternoon. So, Tongning refused to believe that this man wouldn't appear. Oh God, I'm so looking forward to it. After lunch, Tongning sat on the set reading through a script. The scene in the afternoon was extremely important. First, she would have to work with the second male lead, and then she would have to almost break up with him. So, she was extremely focused. This was also her first scene with Huang Fushua. So, she was actually looking forward to it. After all, even though Huang Fushua was frivolous, his acting was impeccable. It didn't take long before Tongning and Huang Fushua began their first scene together. Huang Fushua's character had always been by the female lead side. Everyone thought that he was a little eunuch, but who would have thought that he was actually a prince from another country? He had been by the female lead side for many years. This person's feelings towards the female lead were complicated and ever-changing. Of course, he was just a happy person on a daily basis. As Huang Fushua's personality was similar to his, it was extremely easy for him to control it. His interactions with Tongning were also very interesting. After 2 NGs, they quickly passed the test. Afterwards, it was time for Tongning and the male lead scenes. As soon as Huang Fushua heard that the male lead had already joined the cast, he joked, I refuse to believe that there's a better and more handsome actor on set than me. And at this time, a black figure walked out from the dressing room. His figure was long and slender, peerless and peerless. Heavens! Heavens, look! Heavens! As soon as everyone on set saw Mo Ting, they couldn't help but feel excited. They almost lost control of their emotions. On the other side, Huang Fushua was still exaggerating and making everyone smile. Meanwhile, on the other side, everyone that saw Mo Ting passing by exploded. I am the most handsome. I refuse to believe that the male lead can be any more handsome than me. A moment later, Mo Ting appeared behind Huang Fushua. The height difference between the two was obvious. Everyone covered their mouths in shock. As for Tongning, she was so shocked that she dropped the script in her hands. Although she knew it was Mo Ting, she had never seen him dressed like this. As expected, he was born with the aura of a king. Looking at him, Huang Fushua was obviously a supporting character. Am I seeing things? Is that President Mo? A staff member beside Tongning asked as she tugged on her arm. Is he a living person? Tongning regained her composure and nodded her head. I've never seen such a good-looking man in ancient clothing. I'm so happy that I'm about to faint. President Mo is actually acting alongside Tongning and her husband. That's Junilan. No one can be more realistic than him. Seeing everyone's infatuated expressions, Huang Fushua immediately turned around. As soon as he saw Mo Ting, he was shocked. But he couldn't deny that the Mo Ting in front of him was indeed the king. The king that hated the common people, Junilan. This is such a pleasant surprise. Tongning, did you already know about it? Like you, I only found out about it now. Tongning replied to the staff. In that case, mother, are you satisfied? Mo Ting asked, mimicking the character in the film. No matter how I tested you, you wouldn't let go. Was it all for this moment? Tongning couldn't help but glare at him. Even if you didn't hide it from me, you were already stunning enough. After all, I never imagined that you would look so stunning when dressed up. Do you guys think President Mo can act when he looks so stunning? All we know is that he knows how to write scripts. I don't think he can act. I don't care if he can act or not. As long as he appears in the film, I'm willing to watch him even if I have to stand still. The staff once again started chatting. At this time, Huang Fushua couldn't help but show off his status as a senior to Mo Ting. After you put on your costume, you will be my colleague. You aren't considered a big shot anymore, are you? I'm sure you've never acted before and have no experience. Do you want me to teach you? Mo Ting was dressed in a black, brocade robe. He had an imposing aura and was definitely not an ordinary person. But everyone was worried about his acting. Although he was the CEO of Hairue and the financial backer of the film, it didn't mean he could act. What would happen if he ended up in a terrible situation? Mo Ting lowered his head calmly and asked, "How do you plan to teach me?" Tongning couldn't help but let out a gentle laugh. She then lowered her head and looked at the script. The scene that was about to take place was extremely important. Jun Ilan had seen through the eunuch that Huang Fushua was playing. So, without giving Qing Lan a heads up, Jun Ilan directly replaced her confidant. Although Qing Lan knew that the eunuch was up to no good, she hated Jun Ilan's methods, especially since she was his mother in name. As a result, the two had a huge argument. At first, Jun Ilan respectfully addressed Qing Lan as mother. But afterwards, he suppressed his anger and grabbed onto Qing Lan's neck, asking her if she had a heart. This was a scene that required explosive power and emotions. Even an actor like Huang Fushua had a hard time, let alone Mo Ting. This man was like a mystery. He didn't know anything, yet he dared to pick the male lead. Most importantly, did director Chen Feng actually agree? Did he go crazy from wanting to win against the man next door? If they didn't have the male lead, he could still force his way into the role. Why would he use someone that didn't know anything? Chapter 763. Even if you want to teach, Tongning should be there. Tongning's acting isn't as good as yours, one of the staff whispered in a Huang Fushua's ear. Huang Fushua froze for a moment. In the end, he cleared his throat to distract himself from the awkwardness. President Mo, are you okay? Director Chen Feng approached Mo Ting and asked before filming began. Mo Ting nodded his head slightly. This simple gesture was enough to reassure the director. As mentioned before, when Mo Ting first took over Hairue, he suffered quite a bit. But to prevent himself from being used again, he personally took control of the entertainment industry. Even when it came to singing and acting, he forced himself to understand and get used to it. Because he knew the only way he could rely on others was by taking control of his own work. Okay, get ready, we're about to start filming. Chen Feng returned to the front of the camera and reminded Tongning, "Tongning, pay attention to your emotions." Tongning glanced at Mo Ting and nodded her head at the director. The first scene was actually Jun Ilan watching as Tongning laughed at the anecdotes that the little eunuch had gathered. But when it came to Jun Ilan, she had never smiled like this before. So, Jun Ilan was infuriated. The first scene was Qing Lan facing Jun Ilan from the side. The camera first focused on Qing Lan, then on Jun Ilan. Does President Mo really know how to film? I'm so nervous. I'm even more nervous than President Mo. President Mo isn't an actor. When he's quiet, he's like an immortal. I hope he doesn't get destroyed by his movements. After the set was cleared, the remaining staff placed all their attention on Mo Ting. They were afraid that this man didn't know how to act and would disappoint them. In reality, they didn't have much hope. A few of the staff even covered their eyes, afraid that the scene they were about to see would be too horrible to look at. Following a loud bang, Tongning sat down on a carved wooden stool and giggled as she looked at the album in her hands. At this time, Jun Ilan had already stepped through the door. Seeing Tongning laughing so happily, he immediately asked, "I've never seen Mother laugh like this. This is the first time?" Qing Lan raised his head. When he saw Jun Ilan, he was startled. He hurriedly hid the album behind his back. Jun Ilan lifted his robe and sat upright on a wooden stool. His tone and expression were filled with disappointment. That's right, he was disappointed. However, he lowered his head, as if he was trying to suppress his emotions. Then, He turned back into the Jun Ilan that Qing Lan was familiar with. However, when he spoke, his tone was a little indifferent. I thought that after all these years in this palace, when facing me, you would at least not need to be on guard. In the end, it seems to be disappointing. Do I make you unhappy? Qing Lan's expression was a little downcast, but she suppressed her emotions and said to Jun Ilan, "If there's nothing else, you can leave. I'm tired." After speaking, Qing Lan stood up from his stool. However, just as he took a step forward, Jun Ilan grabbed onto his wrist and pulled him towards a carved wooden door. Their eyes met. Jun Ilan's expression looked like he was on the verge of exploding. He was cold, pained, angry, and helpless. He didn't know what to do with this complicated expression. That was why his hands were shaking. I've told you before, you have to be careful of that eunuch. You need to call yourself son and call me mother. You don't trust me? Jun Ilan asked as he held on to Qing Lan's neck. Jun Ilan, don't forget who we are. I am your mother. Furthermore, who I use and how I use them is my own business. You shouldn't have the right to tell me what to do. But what should I do? I've already replaced that eunuch. From now on, he will never appear in Tai Chin Palace again. Qing Lan's face was red and her eyes were bloodshot. Tears flowed out of her eyes and rolled down her cheeks, onto her chin, and onto the web between Jun Ilan's thumb and index finger. However, her eyes were filled with determination. Give him back to me. When Jun Ilan heard this, he released his grip on Qing Lan's neck. His eyes were filled with mockery as he said, I have forgotten that Imperial Mother has no heart. How could you hurt me so much for an outsider? As he spoke, he took 3 steps back and left the Great Dawn Palace without looking back. Qing Lan leaned against the wooden door as her sobs turned into painful sobs. Cut! Director Chen Feng yelled as he stood up. Great! I never expected President Mo to be so good at hiding his abilities. Most importantly, the two of you actually managed to do everything in one go. The surrounding people were all dumbfounded. What had just happened? When did this scene end? Everyone held their breaths. Mo Ting's grip a moment ago felt like he was strangling their own throats. The feeling was too real. Jun Ilan is so affectionate. Sob, sob, sob. Qing Lan has it so hard. On one hand, she has to control her emotions, but on the other hand, she has to succumb to Jun Ilan's tenderness. It's so torturous. Wait a minute, what did I just see? Mo Ting is too godly. I've never heard rumors that President Mo is an actor. If he knows everything, how can he be alive? Chen Feng looked at everyone's confused expression and explained, President Mo wasn't born with this ability. When he took over Hai Rui, he specifically trained himself. How come no one knows about this? I'm afraid even Tongning doesn't know about this. Mo Ting knew how to act, and his acting was unfathomable. After finding out about this, everyone was filled with excitement. The world was too fantastical. How could a man be so perfect? After filming, Mo Ting returned to his usual iron-blooded CEO. He was dressed in a well-ironed suit and had a serious expression on his face. But, as soon as he put on his costume, he turned to Jun Ilan. Did you think you could teach President Mo how to act? With President Mo's smooth acting, you would look like child's play to him. Huang Fu Shua scoffed as he crossed his arms and turned around. When a man is too perfect, he becomes boring. An outstanding actor was able to motivate other actors, especially those that he had scenes with. Tawning was already used to controlling her acting. But when she was acting with Mo Ting just now, she had completely forgotten that she was Tawning. All her reactions were because of Mo Ting. So, she didn't dare to imagine how good Mo Ting was. This man really deserved a beating. While they were at home, he insisted that he didn't know how to act. So, President Mo, can you explain to me what you're doing? Didn't you say you didn't know how to act? Tawning raised an eyebrow. Chapter 764. I indeed don't know how to do it. Jun Ilan does, and Mo Ting smiled gently. As for the reason why Tongning and Mo Ting passed in one take, it was because Mo Ting had already done a lot of scenes for Tongning while they were preparing for filming. "I'll deal with you when we get home," Tongning scoffed. Mo Ting responded with an affectionate smile. "Haha, this time, the forensic concubine will definitely crush our neighbor." The staff on set were extremely excited. Because Mo Ting had joined the cast, the entire crew acted like they were on steroids. Every day, after filming their own scenes, they would stay on set to watch Tongning and Mo Ting's scenes. While everyone was learning the acting skills of the two actors, they also felt the pain in their hearts. They were like television viewers. When they saw Mo Ting and Tongning's sweet scenes, they would laugh like idiots. But when they saw their heartbreaking scenes, they would cry on the spot. "Oh God, I can't wait to see the final film after the editing." But our neighbor is already halfway through filming. Who cares about them? They've already started filming for so long. But according to our speed, we should be able to catch up soon. Watching Tongning and President Mo's scenes is so satisfying. Of course, all of this was happening internally on set. The entire process was kept under wraps, and no one from the public knew about it. Whenever Mo Ting had nothing to do, he would appear at Hai Rui and appear in front of the public like he didn't even need to act. In reality, he enjoyed his heartbreaking scenes with Tongning. At least, the forensic concubine was very satisfying for him. Because of the love and hatred between Junie Lan and Qing Lan, the film was extremely satisfying and complete. During this time, news about concubine Ning came in one after another. Bai couldn't find any news about the forensic concubine, so she couldn't sleep or eat well. She had already lost in terms of the official photos. So, she wasn't going to let Tongning surpass them again. So, she hired a professional paparazzi to infiltrate the filming set and find out more about the male lead of the forensic concubine. But, to her surprise, the staff of the forensic concubine had all been carefully selected and trained. As soon as they saw the paparazzi approach, they simply smiled and said, "We have found a newcomer that has never acted before." "Are you sure?" "Of course I'm sure. Don't you believe me? Everyone in the crew knows about this." Translator, Uni editor. Uni, the paparazzi brought back some news for Baiyu. Baiyu slammed her hands on the table and cheered. "This is great. Mo Ting is indeed cunning. He used a newcomer and was afraid that the public would object, so he sealed off filming. Once the final film is released, the public will have no choice but to accept it." He was indeed a newcomer and had never acted in a film before. But didn't Baiyu notice that something was wrong? News of the royal concubine using a newcomer and not daring to announce it to the public quickly spread. Of course, fans of the royal concubine objected. They loved Junie Lan's character deeply, so naturally, they would not allow it to be tarnished. "If it's a newcomer without any acting skills, we won't watch it." That's right. Our Junie Lan is a pitiful and domineering man. Don't act like a naive and sweet guy. I refuse. Rejected. I strongly request that the production crew announce the first male name. It's just a small plot, and the crew of the Queen has turned against each other. What a joke. These fans of the original work don't even use their brains. Baiyu looked at the scolding comments on the official Weibo of the royal concubine and sneered. President Mo is too much. Even if there's no one else to play the role, he shouldn't have done something so unconventional. Yu Jie is wise to cause trouble for the people next door. It wasn't that they didn't want to announce it. They were simply afraid that if they did, they would be shocked to death. Even so, the crew of the royal concubine continued to endure the pressure and continued filming day and night. However, because of Baiyu's instigation, Hai Rui's PR became extremely passive. So, news quickly spread to the production crew, and the situation escalated to the point where fans were attacking the original Tang Xiao. Mo Ting immediately gave Fang Yu a phone call. "Deal with the fans." When Huang Fushua heard that Baiyu had something to do with this incident, he felt his entire body burn with anger. It was bad enough that she was a hypocrite, but she always tried to frame others. He really wanted to expose Baiyu's facade. In reality, Fang Yu had never come into contact with the fans of the original novel. Plus, he didn't have anything to show for it. Even if he could, in the eyes of 1,000 fans, there would be 1,000 June Islands. So, unless he directly announced the results, it would be difficult to appease the fans. But, if he couldn't even deal with a few fans of the original novel, how could he be called Fang Yu? So he did not take the initiative to mention the male lead. Instead, he indirectly used Tang Xiao to tell the fans of the original novel. Filming for The Forensic Concubine has always been difficult. All of the male leads were instigated by someone to reject the role. I was already frustrated enough. Who would have thought my fans would become a knife that stabbed me in the back? I believe in Hai Rui, and I believe in the production. Why can't you guys believe in me? June Alon was created by me, one stroke at a time. Don't tell me my heart aches more than you guys. Since he's an actor that I acknowledge, that means the truth isn't the same as the rumors. As my true fans, have you really considered my situation? How am I supposed to endure the mess you're making? Who's the one benefiting from your actions? I didn't ask for a single cent in copyright fees for this script. So, don't accuse me of being selfish. On top of that, Tongning is only acting out of friendship. We simply want to present The Forensic Concubine in front of everyone. I never expected that you guys would stand against me. Don't you guys know who I'm standing against? It was the crew of Concubine Ning. After Tang Xiao's reminder, a large portion of the original novel's fans finally came to their senses. They realized that they shouldn't be used by people with ulterior motives, and that Hai Rui must have a reason for doing what they did. Plus, everyone had put in so much effort, so as fans of the original novel, they shouldn't hold them back. When the time is right, Hai Rui will naturally announce the male lead. I can secretly reveal that the male lead has completely defeated the man next door. In fact, he even defeated the two men that rejected the role. If the results aren't accurate, I, Tang Xiao, will immediately stop writing and retreat from the online novel industry. With Tang Xiao's guarantee, the original novel's fans regained their confidence. Instead, they began to ridicule the man next door. The man next door sure has evil intentions and is shameless enough to provoke the relationship between the production and fans. It's all because the royal concubine has made them nervous that they would do something so despicable. I don't care anymore. I'm confident. Since Xiao Xiao said that the male lead is her idol, then he must be perfect. Wait for her idol. Chapter 765. Over the next few days, the best ex-girlfriend successfully held its wrap party at the hotel. Throughout the entire filming process, the thing that left the deepest impression on director Wang was the change in Chen Xingyan. After an entire film's worth of training, she now looked more and more natural in front of the camera. She was indeed Mo Ting's sister. It was like she was born with an inexplicable bond with the entertainment industry. Her ability to adapt to the environment was not something an ordinary person could compare to. Xingyan, put on a good performance and continue to maintain this attitude. Since your entire family is in the entertainment industry and you are one of them, you need to make a name for yourself so you don't embarrass your brother. Above all, you have such a good manager, you need to cherish him. At the wrap party, Director Wang drank a little too much, so he spoke a lot. But his words were sincere and moved Chen Xingyan quite a bit. After the party, Zihao leaned over and whispered into Chen Xingyan's ear, "Let's go home and get some rest." Chen Xingyan quickly said goodbye to everyone and left the hotel with Zihao. However, as soon as she stepped out of the elevator, she spotted a familiar person at the front desk. Although the person was wearing a mask, they had interacted many times. So, even if the person was reduced to ashes, Chen Xingyan would still recognize them. In fact, there was another man with Chen Xingyan. I was wondering why Lin Lin hasn't been causing trouble lately. It turns out she's in a relationship. Is that Lin Lin? And Zihao asked as he looked at the intimate couple. I'm sure. But, if I'm not wrong, that man is Yu's husband. And Zihao raised an eyebrow at Chen Xingyan. Are you saying? Chen Xingyan quickly covered her mouth. Did Lin Lin cheat on Yu with her brother-in-law? Judging from how careful they were and how intimate they were, I'm afraid that's the case. Isn't this a bit too reckless? Why don't we follow them and take some interesting photos? Hasn't Baiyu been clinging to Ningjia lately? If word gets out. After speaking, Chun Xingyin wanted to follow them, but Zaheo stopped her. Idiot, there are surveillance cameras. Go home and get some rest. I will handle this matter. Oh, but it's so exciting. Chun Xingyin couldn't hide the excitement in her voice. And Zaheo looked at her dotingly and helplessly. After sending her to the car, he made her wait for half an hour before they returned home. As soon as they stepped through the door, Chun Xingyin couldn't help but jump onto Zaheo's body. She wrapped her arms around his neck and asked, "Did you get the evidence? What do you think?" And Zaheo asked as he hugged her round butt. "Why don't we do something exciting too?" And Zaheo knew what she was thinking and immediately denied, "You're still young. Hey, I'm at least 20. Go get some rest. I need to get Tongning to deal with the surveillance footage of Bai Lin Lin and her brother-in-law. Okay, business is more important. Baiyu is in trouble." After speaking, Chun Xingyin slid off in Zaheo's body, and Zaheo patted her head, and his lips curled into a bitter smile. This girl was always recklessly rubbing herself against his body, completely unaware of the danger she was in. Worst of all, he was losing more and more control over himself. If one day he really couldn't control himself anymore and wanted her, what would he do? And Zaheo sighed, turned around, and walked into the study room. He then gave Tongning a phone call, but the person to pick up was Mo Ting. "Air, I didn't mean to call Tongning late at night. I simply have something that I need to share with her." "Aha, you are a qualified bestie," Mo Ting said as he raised an eyebrow. And Zaheo helplessly rubbed his forehead. Although he didn't want to admit that he was like a woman in Mo Ting's heart, compared to Mo Ting, he had to admit defeat. Ahem. While Xingyin and I were attending the celebration dinner, we ran into Bai Lin Lin and Baiyu's husband having an affair. Recently, Baiyu has been clinging on to Tongning. I thought it might be of some use to the two of you, so I went to the surveillance room and asked for the surveillance footage. "You don't need to make a phone call about something like this," Mo Ting replied coldly. Couldn't Zaheo say that he had something else he wanted to talk to Tongning about, but didn't want Mo Ting to know about it? Plus, it wasn't like he had the obligation to catch them in the act. Couldn't Mo Ting thank him? If this was in the past, he would have definitely questioned Mo Ting. But, because of his guilty conscience, he could only watch as Mo Ting retorted. What did Zaheo say? Tongning was actually feeding the babies by Mo Ting's side. "I discovered Bai Lin Lin and Baiyu's husband having an affair," Mo Ting said as he put down his phone. Tongning was a little surprised, but she quickly accepted it. That's not surprising. Bai Lin Lin is young and beautiful, while Baiyu is competitive. Any man would choose the former. "I wouldn't," Mo Ting said in seriousness as he looked at Tongning. "My choice is always for you." Recently, Tongning had become Mo Ting's fangirl. She discovered that she was even more infatuated with this man than before. Every time she discovered something new, Tongning would wonder, was there anything in this world that Mo Ting couldn't do? After putting down the babies, Tongning grabbed onto Mo Ting's shirt and pulled him closer to her. "We still have a debt to settle." Mo Ting let out a gentle laugh as he followed Tongning into the couple's bedroom. "How many things haven't you told me yet?" Tongning asked as she pressed Mo Ting against the wall. "After being married for so long, I've realized that there's still something worth digging out from you. Mr. Mo, you have surprised and surprised me." "Does that make you even more infatuated with me?" Mo Ting asked with a smile. "That's not right, Mrs. Mo. I've always felt that the thing that attracts you the most about me is my abilities. You..." Before Tongning could finish her sentence, Mo Ting lifted her in his arms and carried her towards the bed. "Mrs. Mo, I can't listen to anything you say right now. My mind is filled with one thought. I want you." During the day, when the couple were filming, especially when they were working together, most of the scenes were heart-wrenching. Love and hate intertwined at the same time, and they loved each other, but couldn't stay together. Every time she was in a scene like this, Tongning would reflect on herself and cherish the man in front of her even more and their warm family. Filming for The Forensic Concubine lasted for a good few months and was completely sealed off from the public. Up to this point, there were still a few important scenes that had yet to be completed. Perhaps it was to speed things along. But after the incident where the fans of The Forensic Concubine fought with Hai Rui, Baiyu took a break and focused all her energy on the filming of Concubine Ning. Actually, when it came to acting, her acting wasn't bad. But, on one hand, she pretended to be kind, while on the other, she acted evil. It was quite disgusting. After Nzaheo handed over the evidence of Bai Lin and Baiyu's husband's affair to Mo Ting, he was not in a rush to use it. After all, President Mo was used to being two-faced. Good things should be used where they were needed most. Before he knew it, it was the end of the year with the most awards. Because Concubine Ning had completed filming, Baiyu began to appear on all sorts of TV shows to promote herself. Of course, she continued to put on a fake smile and say fake words. But every time she went out, someone would take special care of her husband. Chapter 766. Concubine Ning has already been scheduled to air on the 15th of the Lunar New Year, so that it can air before The Forensic Concubine. If it was also a period drama, there would definitely be more advantages if it was aired first. Firstly, the audience liked to be prejudiced. Secondly, if it was aired consecutively, then the audience would feel tired. Plus, Concubine Ning has secured the best broadcasting platform and is being broadcast at prime time. This is definitely not good for us. During a meeting at Hai Rui, the higher-ups in charge of operations expressed their opinions. Baiyu has always had a good relationship with the public. Her image has always been well taken care of. Although we didn't get along well in the past, Concubine Ning has always had a good grasp of the bigger picture. Most importantly, our male lead has yet to be revealed. So, after the first round of promotions, Concubine Ning has doubled our expectations. President Mo, the royal concubine, hasn't finished filming yet. What should we do? Could it be that he was going to fight for the summer holidays? If that's the case, then we will miss out on this year's Fei Tian Awards. Who was the one that said we had to air later than Concubine Ning? Concubine Ning has indeed grabbed the best primetime slot, but that's only limited to Mondays to Fridays. What about Saturdays and Sundays? The weekend is the world of variety shows. What happens after the variety show ends? President Mo, are you saying that we should adopt a weekly format? No matter how much publicity Concubine Ning tried, Mo Ting still had a lot of explosive information in his hands. So, once this information was revealed, Concubine Ning would no longer have anything to do with it. Most importantly, he couldn't reveal Bai Lin's affair with Baiyu's husband to the public. So, he had to deal with it in private. After all, Baiyu was the victim. If he revealed it to the public, he would be playing the sympathy card for her. At this crucial moment, something big happened on the set of The Forensic Concubine. Due to the weather and the negligence of the production team, director Chen Feng was injured during filming. In the end, he was sent to the hospital. Soon, the news spread, and all kinds of speculations began to spread. I heard that director Chen Feng fell off a cliff and died. I heard that the filming location for The Forensic Concubine is quite creepy. A few people have already died there. What bad luck. I heard that too. Apparently, when director Chen Feng died, his head was separated from his body. It's too scary. No matter what was going on, there was one thing that was for sure. The filming of The Forensic Concubine had to stop. This would delay the progress of the show even more. Actually, for a matter like this, all Hai Rui had to do was step out and clarify the truth. But the most annoying thing was director Chen Feng's leg was temporarily incapacitated. Even the heavens are helping me. After seeing the news, Baiyu sneered. Let's see how long they can last with such a lousy production. Actually, sister, you don't have to worry at all. The viewership ratings will prove who the real queen is. Her assistant flattered her. In that case, you should also keep a close eye on the news from next door. Concubine Ning is about to air. I don't want any more accidents to happen, Baiyu said coldly. As she knew about the story between Huangfu Shuo and Baiyu in the past, she told Huangfu Shuo about how Baiyu had been betrayed by her own sister and husband to help him vent his anger. But in reality, after Huang Fu Shua heard about it, he did not feel the same pain as before. It wasn't because he no longer hated Baiyu, it was because he finally understood one thing. No matter how Baiyu had treated him in the past, there was no need for him to be hysterical. Because whatever Baiyu owed him, she would always find a way to return it. This time, because of the incident on set of The Forensic Concubine, Ting gave everyone a day off. So, Huang Fushua ran into Baiyu at the hotel. As he looked at her husband standing beside her, he suddenly felt extremely ironic. This wasn't a coincidence. He had purposely asked around for Baiyu's whereabouts before he appeared at the hotel. As always, Baiyu felt like she had the entire world in her hands. So, as soon as she saw Huang Fushua, she blocked his way and refused to let him leave. "I haven't introduced my husband to you yet, have I?" "I don't think it's necessary. I've been getting to know him better lately," Huang Fushua said with a hidden meaning. "Since you're familiar with him, then you should know that I'm still not someone to be trifled with," Baiyu warned beside Huang Fushua's ear. On one hand, Huang Fushua felt that Baiyu was pitiful, but on the other hand, he also felt that she was not worthy of his sympathy. "By the way, I heard that your production has stopped working again? How pitiful. Previously, you couldn't find a male lead and now the director has been injured. Your production sure is plagued with misfortune," Baiyu said proudly. For some reason, under the flashing neon lights, Baiyu's face felt extremely unfamiliar. "Did you know that Concubine Ning will be airing next year? I hope you can contribute a bit to the viewership ratings. As for when your drama will be released to the public, all I can say is, I wish you all the best of luck." Huang Fushua crossed his arms and smiled at Baiyu's aggressiveness. "Aren't you tired of having to change your expression every day? Who told me to be an actress?" "Baiyu, I came here today to watch you make a fool of yourself. Sooner or later, you will find out that you are a complete idiot." After speaking, Huang Fushua pressed the elevator button and left. Baiyu looked in the direction that Huang Fushua had left and laughed in disdain. "You've already gotten to this point. Why are you still putting on airs?" Sorry, it wasn't that Huang Fushua wanted to put on airs, but the production crew of The Forensic Concubine hadn't said anything yet. Although the content hadn't finished filming, it didn't affect the screening of the drama. After all, it was a weekly drama that could be split into 2 parts. So, why was it plagued with misfortune? Huang Fushua felt that if he didn't tear apart someone like Baiyu's hypocrisy, he would be letting down society. His conscience would be hurting, but the good show would have to wait until The Forensic Concubine was officially announced. As for the affair between her husband and sister, she had to be the one to expose it on her own. Baiyu felt that Huang Fushua was the same as Tongning. He had become extremely pretentious and annoying. So, in the following promotional events, Baiyu made sure to express her sympathy towards the production crew of The Forensic Concubine. It was like she deliberately mentioned another production crew's name to give them a little more popularity. Afterwards, Hai Rui announced director Chen Feng's current situation and clarified all the rumors that had been circulating. Not only that, Hai Rui seemed to be preparing to make a big move. They were ready to announce the name of the male lead. At a time like this, no matter who it is, it's already useless. Didn't they stop filming? That's right. So much time has passed. My expectations have already dropped to 0. I'm already prepared to watch Concubine Ning. The Forensic Concubine is best left to the novel. Chapter 767. Most of the audience's attitudes had already calmed down. Because of the closed-door filming, the long period of secrecy surrounding the male lead, and the continuous promotion of Concubine Ning, in the eyes of the audience, The Forensic Concubine was a drama that came to a premature end. It was such a shame that Tang Zhao's original work was lost. At this point, the neighboring drama has no chance of making a comeback, Baiyu's assistant said excitedly. Things like this still depend on luck. I've always been lucky in this area, Baiyu said to her assistant as she got changed in the activity room. In that case, it's almost New Year. Can I go home early? It's a big family reunion today. After you take me home, you can go home. Baiyu waved her hand. Baiyu waved her hand generously. Unfortunately, Bai Linlin was overseas and her husband had returned to the U.S. Who would have thought that she would be spending New Year's in Beijing on her own? But it didn't matter. Winning against Tongning was enough to lift her spirits. Before she knew it, Tongning's two babies were already half a year old. To celebrate the new year together, Tongning gathered the Tang and Mo families, including Bei Qindong and Han Xiner. Everyone fought to hold the babies, and the two smiling rascals immediately received a bunch of red packets, making the older generation unable to let go of them. Ning Jie, is the forensic concubine really going to fall behind Concubine Ning? Recently, I haven't seen any good reviews for it. What's going on? Han Xiner was most concerned about the topic that the industry was currently discussing. But she hated it when people praised Concubine Ning while stepping on the forensic concubine. Which one of these two is easy to deal with? If you have the time to worry about this, why don't you think about when to accept my proposal? Bei Qindong said as he appeared behind Han Xiner. Bei Qindong appeared behind Han Xiner. He then turned to Tongning and asked, if you need help, just let me know. After all, you've won a few awards for Best Actor. You should have some say in the industry. No need. Mo Ting's cold reply immediately extinguished Bei Qindong's enthusiasm. I say, what exactly are you so proud of? At least I'm a father. What about you? Bei Qindong. Since his proposal was rejected, Bei Qindong had no choice but to look elsewhere to avoid the awkwardness. Mo Ting let out a gentle laugh before he wrapped his arm around Tongning and walked over to the elders to celebrate the new year with them. Although it had been over 30 years, and he had never celebrated the new year with so many people, it wasn't too bad. Afterwards, during a new meeting at Hai Rue's operations manager once again raised the issue of the forensic concubine. He felt that Mo Ting should make a decision as soon as possible. After all, their current situation was too difficult. Concubine Ning was the most anticipated film, but the forensic concubine didn't even make it into the top 10. President Mo, if we don't come up with a countermeasure, we will be beaten by our neighbor. Soon, Concubine Ning will begin airing. In that case, let her broadcast it, Mo Ting said calmly. But if I, Mo Ting, fail to win this battle, I will hand over the position of CEO to you, Mo Ting said straightforwardly. Let's end the meeting here. Let's wait for the next step of my plan. Since Mo Ting had already made a promise like this, what else could the manager say? Seeing the attitude of Concubine Ning, Mo Ting changed his strategy. A weekly broadcast? There was no need to make way for Concubine Ning, the most anticipated film. Then, he would broadcast it to his heart's content. He needed to let Baiyu have a taste of sweetness before she would fall into despair. Of course, Hai Rue did not announce their male lead, so Baiyu assumed that Hai Rue had given up on struggling. This was perfect. It would savor the effort. Concubine Ning's premiere audience rating breaks too. Viewers rave. Concubine Ning's premiere is hot. Baiyu is indeed the queen of viewership. Concubine Ning's ratings continue to rise on day 2. Its highest rating is 2.6. It didn't take long before Concubine Ning broke new viewership records. It had only been on air for 2 days, but it was already met with a wave of praise. While the audience was watching the drama excitedly, many of them were reminded of a drama called The Forensic Concubine that was competing with it during filming. However, they didn't expect that the tides would turn. The Forensic Concubine had already fallen to rock bottom. Concubine Ning is so good. She's so good. The drama is indeed of high quality and has a conscience. At that time, Tongning even claimed that the script had been tampered with. I bet she's angry because the female lead was stolen from her. It's all karma. Look at her. The forensic concubine is no longer doing anything. I don't care. I simply like watching Concubine Ning and Baiyu. Seeing the comments online, Baiyu was already popping champagne at home to celebrate. As long as she maintained this high of viewership ratings, the Best Actress award would definitely be hers when the Fei Tian Awards were held in February. I never thought that Mo Ting would become so weak. But you probably never expected this. After this snowy night, everything would be different. The next morning, an explosive piece of news spread throughout Beijing. Ting had announced that he would be acting. That's right, Ting was going to act. In an instant, the big boss of the entertainment industry caused an uproar in the industry. Some were doubtful, some were surprised, some were just here to watch the show, and some were waiting for a pleasant surprise. Everyone had different thoughts when they heard the news. As soon as Baiyu heard about the news, she sneered. What trick is he trying to play this time? But just as she was waiting to see how her viewership ratings would change, a beautiful video began to spread throughout Beijing. It was a collaboration between Hai Rui and a famous web browser. As soon as a netizen opened a web page, this video would automatically pop up. Because of its high quality, it immediately caught the attention of young people. As for the content of the video, it was none other than the most classic scene of The Forensic Concubine. It was the scene of Qing Lan and Jun Ilan being forced to abdicate on their wedding night. Hey, I saw a video today. I think it's related to The Forensic Concubine. Me too. +1. Fuck, in order to watch this video, I repeatedly opened up the web browser. It was so tiring. But did you guys notice the actor that plays Jun Ilan is... Oh my god! Ting. I'm going to explode. Hurry and tell everyone. Fuck, it's so good that I'm going to cry. Aw. Oh god. Ting. It's really Ting. It's actually Ting. This is unbelievable. Have you guys watched it yet? If you haven't, hurry up. Chapter 768. It didn't take long before the video received a lot of views. In fact, the more observant netizens discovered that if they clicked on the video, they would be directed to the official website of The Forensic Concubine. The official website was no longer lifeless. Instead, the male lead silhouette with a question mark was now replaced with a still from Jun Ilan. That's right, it was a still from Jun Ilan. And on the top right corner of the still, there was an ancient script that stated that Jun Ilan was being played by Ting. I'm gonna go crazy. I've never seen an actor that fits the original story so well. Ting is so good looking, especially when he puts on his armor. He looks domineering and heart-wrenching. The problem is, does Ting know how to act? I don't care if he knows how to act or not. As long as he stands on screen, even if he doesn't move an inch, I'm willing to watch 80 episodes. When is The Forensic Concubine going to be released? I want to see Jun Ilan. I'm so excited. I've never been so concerned about a drama before. Hai Rui, hurry and announce the screening time. Or, why don't you show us the trailer? It's really good. Tongning and Ting are exactly the Qing Lan and Jun Ilan that we want. It's such a great feeling. The audience cheered loudly, especially the younger generation. Anyone that had seen the video before was captivated by the short 10-second clip. As a result, the younger generation began to dig up more information about The Forensic Concubine. As a result, the number of people waiting in front of their televisions began to decrease. However, Baiyu was still extremely confident in her drama. I don't believe that such a short clip can create such a huge storm. Indeed, a short clip couldn't create a huge wave. But the next day, the viewership ratings for Concubine Ning were released and the industry was shocked. On the day of the premiere, the viewership ratings broke too. But 2 days later, the viewership ratings had dropped to 1.4 and less than 1.5. Simply because The Forensic Concubine released a short clip that lasted 10 seconds. Concubine Ning lost almost half of her audience. The entire industry was shocked by Ting's role as Jun Ilan. After all, no one expected Ting to know how to act. Most of the professionals were doubting Ting's acting. But didn't Tongning also start out as a model? Worst of all, the public's reaction to Ting acting as Jun Ilan was huge. For an entire day, the words Ting and Jun Ilan were at the top of the search rankings. One could imagine the amount of attention they received was quite shocking. Hai Rui struck while the iron was hot. At 8 p.m. that night, As if they were deliberately going against the broadcast time of Concubine Ning, they released the latest trailer for The Forensic Concubine. It was 3 minutes long. With this 3-minute preview, the fans once again fell into a frenzy. After all, the Junilan that was portrayed by Mo Ting was so handsome that even the gods were enraged. Everyone was attracted to Mo Ting's handsomeness, but in the end, they were conquered by the 3-minute trailer. They had to admit that the acting of the characters in the film, especially Tong Ning's, was real. As for Mo Ting, he exceeded everyone's expectations. Like a veteran, he was familiar with all sorts of scenes. Wow, it's not satisfying enough. I want to see the real thing. How can 3 minutes be enough? Hai Rui is going to release the real thing. Fuck, I originally thought Tong Ning and Mo Ting would be slow because they were husband and wife. But as soon as they got into character, they were completely different. I can't see any traces of reality. I don't care. This is the Junilan that I want. I'm super satisfied. Because of this 3-minute preview, a lot of people lost interest in Concubine Ning. After all, it had only been on air for 2 days, and they hadn't developed any feelings for it yet. Plus, The Forensic Concubine was originally an adaptation of a high-quality IP, so fans of the original series already had a strong relationship with it. So, with the addition of Mo Ting, the entire series was sent into an uproar. So, on the 4th day, the ratings for Concubine Ning fell to 1. If it continued like this, it was highly likely that it would fall below 1 or even lower. So, the crew of Concubine Ning suddenly felt a sense of crisis. Baiyu was so angry that she smashed things at home. She never expected that The Forensic Concubine would be able to make a comeback like this. Her limelight, her ratings, and her status as the queen. But because of Mo Ting and Tong Ning, everything had turned to nothing. As a result, the crew of Concubine Ning held a few events in an attempt to recover. But it wasn't easy to find viewers that had already been lost. As she watched Tong Ning and Mo Ting's popularity continue to rise and Concubine Ning's ratings continue to fall, Baiyu finally felt helpless. Originally, after the first wave of promotions for The Forensic Concubine passed, she thought she would be able to let out a sigh of relief. But what made her even more depressed was the crew of The Forensic Concubine announced a screening time on the opposite channel and at the same primetime slot. Previously, after seeing The Forensic Concubine explode in popularity, the person in charge of the broadcasting platform contacted Mo Ting in private. At that time, Mo Ting simply asked, "If you dare to stop Concubine Ning from airing on your channel, I will release it. Otherwise, there's no point in talking." Of course, the person in charge couldn't stop Concubine Ning for no reason. So, they simply expressed their disappointment at losing the right to air The Forensic Concubine. They had no idea that working with Concubine Ning back then was equivalent to offending Hai Rui and Mo Ting. Not only that, Mo Ting also chose to work with their biggest competitor and chose to air their show at the same time slot. Wasn't this competition exciting enough? Although everyone knew that Concubine Ning would be beaten to a pulp, when they actually saw the ratings, they were still shocked. 0, 59, and 3. 1. The ratings for Concubine Ning couldn't even compare to the ratings for a news channel. Start high, but end low was a good example of a drama like Concubine Ning. But, in reality, everyone understood that it was because of Mo Ting's impact that the situation had turned around. But this was also a wise decision made by a decision maker. After the first day of airing, the comments were all positive. I'm so excited. Seeing Qing Lan and Junie Lan together makes me happy. The two of them have also been young and inexperienced before. Although I know it's going to be very painful, I can't help but want to continue watching. The audience was heartless. Although they appeared to be sentimental, they had already forgotten that when they watched Concubine Ning, they said they would only support Baiyu. But at this moment, apart from The Forensic Concubine, they had no intention of watching any other drama. Mo Ting used an ironclad fact to tell everyone that anyone that provoked Hai Rui would end up like Baiyu. No matter how much they thought they were in the lead, they would still end up like Bai. Chapter 769. Of course, after watching 1 or 2 episodes, while everyone enjoyed the show, they still had a question in their minds. How did Mo Ting, who had never dabbled in acting, know how to act? He was like a hidden expert. It seemed things that normal people didn't even dare to think about were easily accomplished by him. Some people could not figure it out no matter how hard they thought about it. But there were also people who easily gave the answer. There was no other reason than that Mo Ting was a genius. All of a sudden, the entire Beijing was talking about the forensic concubine and the plot of the drama. Everyone was asking for resources and buying merchandise. As for Baiyu, even after Concubine Ning finished airing, not many people paid attention to her. This was the so-called International Best Actress. It was hard to see a drama being crushed in such a pitiful manner. Originally, Baiyu wouldn't have ended up in this state. But, unfortunately, she offended Mo Ting and schemed against Tang Ning. So, it was only right that Mo Ting make things difficult for her in various ways. Of course, even though Baiyu's drama flopped, she wasn't at a dead end. After all, she still had a kind image. As long as she maintained it, she still had a chance to make a comeback. Yujie, the A-list jobs have all been taken up by big names recently. It seems, when we're on the same level, the producers don't even consider us. Don't tell me you want me to lower my standards? If that's the case, is this still the International Best Actress Baiyu? Baiyu asked angrily. In that case, have a look at these jobs. Baiyu's assistant nervously handed over the documents. She had already reached this stage, yet she still had to put on airs. She had flopped so badly at the television awards that even her parents wouldn't recognize her, and she had become a laughingstock. So, she didn't know what else to be proud of. Baiyu received the documents from her assistant and simply glanced at them before slamming them on the head. You want me to accept a reality show like a newcomer? Yujie, I'm sorry. I'll take them away immediately. Seeing her assistant pick up the documents from the floor, Baiyu immediately stopped her. Wait, perhaps you can try a reality show. Showing off her EQ was her forte. Her assistant handed over the documents in a daze. After looking through them, Baiyu agreed to participate in a reality show called One Day, One Night. Most variety shows nowadays were bought from South Korea, so there was no point in them being original. But it was undeniable that they could quickly increase your popularity. After all, a person with a high EQ would be very popular no matter where he went. But, to Baiyu's surprise, Huang Fushua also agreed to join the show and record the same episode as her. Didn't Huang Fushua never appear on variety shows? Sister Yu, why don't we find a reason to reject him? After hearing her assistant's words, Baiyu glared at her. She was already at a low point in her career. If she continued to stubbornly reject her work, would any variety show accept her in the future? Go! She wanted to know why Huang Fushua was doing this. Before filming began, Baiyu approached Huang Fushua in private. Did you go on this show because of me? At that time, Huang Fushua was standing at the front door of his home and did not allow Baiyu to enter. His voice was light and casual. Miss Bai, did you know that you think too highly of yourself? I'm a B-lister, so it's natural for me to participate in this kind of program. But what about you? How could an almighty international best actress make such a decision? Did you know that the gap between you and Tang Ning is getting bigger and bigger? Baiyu was left speechless, because every word that Huang Fushua said hit the nail on the head. Shua, can you not side with Tang Ning? I'm not siding with either side, Huang Fushua replied as he crossed his arms. Huang Fushua crossed his arms and replied, I'm still waiting for you to make a comeback. Miss Bai, don't disappoint me. Are you happy to see me go downhill? Why wouldn't I? Huang Fushua asked. I'm sorry, Miss Bai. Let's see each other on the show. I'm afraid that if the reporters catch us, I won't be able to explain myself. After all, I'm currently very popular because of my outstanding performance in The Forensic Concubine. Baiyu turned and left with tears in her eyes. But, even so, Huang Fushua did not pity her. After all, he knew Baiyu too well. She didn't have any sincerity to speak of. She was best at lying to herself and others. Participate in a variety show? Huang Fushua scoffed. This time, he was actually going because of Baiyu. After all, he had promised that he would expose Baiyu's fake mask after the forensic concubine made a response. Now, the opportunity had arrived. Let's wait for a good show. I heard that Baiyu has gone to participate in a variety show. After dinner, Tongning fed Guogua as she asked him, Mo Ting, why would you do something so degrading? The only reason she's able to survive in this industry is because of her cleverness. How wise of a decision do you expect her to make? Mo Ting asked. Plus, the upcoming events. At this point, Mo Ting did not continue. But Tongning understood the hidden meaning behind his words. Whether it was Huang Fushua's revenge or Bai Lin's affair with her husband, they were both things that would rip Baiyu to shreds. The couple did not say another word as they placed all their attention on the two babies. As she looked at her two sons, who were becoming more and more adorable, Tongning couldn't help but pinch Tong Tong's cheeks. Because Guogua always cried, Tongning couldn't afford to offend him. What was even more hilarious was that Tang Tang, who was in her father's arms, had wet her father's pants. I... They were already a little over 7 months old. The two rascals could already mumble a few words, especially when Tang Tang was excited. After drawing a map on her father's body, she would cry out in excitement. Seeing this, Tongning couldn't help but laugh. Hurry and have a bath. Mo Ting placed a gentle kiss on his son's head before placing him back in his crib. He actually enjoyed the sight of his two babies playing tricks on his body. As a father, there was nothing he was more proud of than this. The next day, Mo Ting arrived at Hai Rue for work as usual. However, as soon as he stepped out of his car, he was immediately surrounded by a group of reporters. It seemed the security at Hai Rue's underground parking lot was going to be replaced again. President Mo, do you have any intentions of becoming an actor? President Mo, will you change your focus from now on? President Mo, will you have any new projects after the forensic concubine? President Mo, everyone is curious about your acting skills. Can you share with us how you've developed your acting skills? I don't think it's necessary to share my plans with the public. Of course, my favorite thing to do is stay at home and take care of the kids. Mo Ting's words blocked all the reporters' questions. As a result, a rumor began to spread. Mo Ting had only participated in the forensic concubine because Tongning needed him. That was all. Being the leader of the wife-doting brigade wasn't just for show. Chapter 770. For Mo Ting, participating in the forensic concubine was as simple as going shopping for groceries. It wasn't as complicated as the public thought, nor did it require him to make any earth-shattering decisions. It was simply something within his capabilities. It was fine if Mo Ting kept a low profile, but even Tongning kept an unusually low profile. As it was a film produced by his own agency, apart from the necessary promotions, Mo Ting did not arrange any other activities. After all, the ratings were already there, and Tongning had already fulfilled her responsibilities as an actress. It seemed he had decided to train Tongning in that direction. If there was a role, she would act. If not, she would hide. It seemed he wanted to tell everyone that only a good script would allow Tongning to be active in the industry. She was a true actress that was born to act. This further cemented Tongning's status as a high-quality actress that only acted in good dramas. At this time, Baiyu was thinking about how to make a comeback. The reality show One Day, One Night would place 5 guests on a deserted island and attempt to survive in the wild. They would also leave behind a distress signal, but they would only be given 24 hours to decipher it. As long as the 5 guests could successfully find a clue, they would receive the keys to the escape car, and their mission would be considered a success. But if they failed, they would have to undergo a test. In Beijing, the show's ratings were always quite good. This was because every time they were placed on a different island, apart from seeing all sorts of interesting sceneries, they were also able to experience different thrills and dangers. Soon, the show began filming. Apart from Huang Fu Shua, Bai was accompanied by an old singer and her pet, a young couple. They weren't all from the entertainment industry. For example, the young couple were famous travelers who had traveled to many different countries on foot and had plenty of experience in surviving in the wild. The 5 guests were placed on an unknown island with the heaviest luggage on their backs. As the young couple were used to it, they did not find it cumbersome. However, the man couldn't help but carry the luggage for his wife, while Huang Fu Shua carried the luggage for the old singer. So, Bai had no choice but to carry the luggage herself. Out of everyone present, only Huang Fu Shua knew how good Bai was at disguising herself. To make things easier for herself, she would definitely do her best to put on an act. As expected, not long after they arrived on the island, while they were resting, Bai told them that she wasn't tired and wanted to scout ahead for the others. No one asked her to do this. But a moment later, Bai's cries could be heard coming from the forest. Everyone turned to look and saw Bai sitting on the ground, rubbing her ankle. Sorry, I don't want to drag you guys down with me. Let me stay here on my own and move on. The old singer immediately said to Huang Fu Shua. Huang Fu Bai. Huang Fu Shua shook his head. My responsibility is to take care of you. You see, your body isn't that good. If something were to happen to you, the burden on our team would be even heavier. After listening to Huang Fu Shua's words, the young man nodded. He's right, I'll carry it. Why don't we take advantage of the fact that the sky hasn't turned dark yet, and we need to familiarize ourselves with the island as soon as possible? Why don't we let Bai rest here while we familiarize ourselves with our surroundings? Then, we can come back to pick her up at the appointed time. That way, we won't waste any time and energy, Huang Fu Shua suggested. You Bai Su's sister. Huang Fu as he said, Bai have a good rest here. You won't be afraid, right? Huang Fu Shua asked. He knew that according to Bai's personality, she wouldn't throw a tantrum on the spot. Instead, she would pretend to be sensible and say, okay, I'll wait for you guys here. Who asked me to act like an idiot? That's good. Let's hurry and set off. After speaking, the group continued on their way. Behind them, Bai was so angry that her face turned red. But there was no way for her to vent her anger. After a few steps, the young woman approached Huang Fu Shua and said, Do you really hate Bai? I can tell that she's really good at pretending. I really don't understand why an international award-winning actress like her would participate in a reality show. That's enough. She even wanted my boyfriend to carry her on his back. I think she deliberately hurt her ankle because she didn't want to walk. A woman's intuition was always very accurate. Huang Fu Shua smiled in agreement. Is that true? What a bitch. I hate people that are good at pretending. In that case, are you interested in exposing her? The young woman did not say a word, but the 2 men had a tacit understanding. The best thing about the show was that after 12 hours, the entire team had a chance to vote to reduce their burden. Of course, after so many episodes of the show, not a single team had chosen to give up on their teammates and continue to carry on. But this time, that wasn't necessarily the case. Before Bai participated in the show, she specifically watched a few episodes to ensure that none of her teammates would be abandoned, so she decided to participate. But this time she was wrong. At first, Bai wasn't afraid because she was angry. But as her vision began to blur and night approached, she finally felt her palms start to sweat. She refused to believe that her teammates would leave her in the same spot for a few hours without caring about her. Of course, Huang Fu Shua and the others weren't so stupid. So, before Bai broke down, he found her and brought her to the tent that they had set up. He then began to study the clues that they had found in the few hours that Bai was gone. Although Bai was present, she couldn't understand a single word. She felt like an outsider. Am I useless? Did I cause trouble for you? It's fine, the young woman smiled. You've never participated in anything like this before, so we understand. But my leg. You can continue to rest tomorrow. We will continue to look for clues. That way, you won't have to worry about being a burden to us. After hearing this, Bai's expression changed. She already didn't have much screen time today, so she couldn't afford to miss out on another opportunity tomorrow. So, on the surface, She did not respond to the young woman. But in the middle of the night, she decided to put on a show. While everyone was resting, she took the opportunity to practice walking outside. She wanted to be useful and be used. Look at how good she was at pretending. Fuck, she sure is ruthless to herself. At this time, the young woman couldn't help but say to her boyfriend, I really have to give her full marks for pretending to this extent. It's bad enough that she doesn't sleep, but she actually made everyone unable to sleep because of her. What was the show thinking? How could they bring a weirdo like her in? Outside the tent, Bayu would occasionally encourage herself. That's right, she was encouraging herself. She thought she was great. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.